You can design a city. Can you design the defense mechanism of a city? Yi Mo was overjoyed. He looked at the man with desperate eyes. You can design a city. Can you design the defense mechanism of a city? Yi Mo was overjoyed. He looked at the man with desperate eyes. The man said with contempt, I'm not the best at designing weapons. I'm better at designing cities and some other things. I don't like designing war machines, and making them doesn't come naturally. It's as if I have the ideas in my brain already. Yi Mo made up his mind to take that person to Luo Yu. He felt he was the most suitable person to develop the new city of Luo Yu. I'm genuinely asking you to join Luo Yu City. You will also have a part of the city. This city belongs to everyone, and I know you're very capable, so I hope you will agree. I'm certain that you can only live the life you want at Luo Yu City, Yi Mo said pleadingly. The man could hear how serious Yi Mo was. He sunk into silence. He didn't want to jump into another pit after just getting out of one, but he also knew there was no point in staying in the desert. Although he didn't know how Yi Mo was going to get him out of there, since he believed his words, he was sure Yi Mo had a way. Moreover, he felt Yi Mo's tone was genuine and he didn't seem to be trying to trick him in any way. Yi Mo saw this and quickly said, I won't force you, but even if you don't join Luo Yu City, I have my ways to go against Northern Sand. I know you must keep secrets in order to be able to design the space flower and run away from Northern Sand. Of course, I also keep some secrets since I can make the beauty pill and face Northern Sand. As long as you join Luo Yu City, I don't mind letting know some of my capabilities. Your capabilities? The man asked with confusion. Yi Mo nodded. If this man agreed to join Luo Yu City, he would have to take him with him away, which meant going on his flying sword. This would expose his secret, but for Luo Yu City, Yi Mo didn't mind. Also, Yi Mo felt that although he was really good at technology, his EQ was really low. He wasn't afraid of that man betraying him. They call me Xing Worker. I don't know what my real name is. If Luo Yu is really as you say, then I will join you. I don't like hiding for my life. I want to be able to live openly, and my only condition is that I can leave whenever I want, the man said slowly. Yi Mo rejoiced. He knew that if Xing Worker said this, he had decided on joining Luo Yu City. Of course, his last condition would only be possible if he worked with Yi Mo. Yi Mo was sure that with any other country, his last condition wouldn't work. He nodded to Xing Worker and said, if you don't mind, you can have the surname Yi, like me. I'll call you Yi Xing from now on. That's perfect, I'll be called Yi Xing from now on. Even if I remembered my name, I wouldn't change it. Should I call you Yi Mo or City Lord? Yi Xing said. Yi Mo thought for a moment and said, we are all working for the same goal. I'm a step ahead of you, so you can call me Big Martial Brother. Okay, Yi Xing agreed immediately. Yi Xing felt the monkey beside him moving and said, this is my friend Small Ball. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to live in the desert these last few months. I want to bring him with me. No problem at all. I also knew about this place because of it. It's very fast. Yi Mo agreed. Although he talked a lot, Yi Xing was too useful to Luo Yu City. Yi Mo took out a bracelet and gave it to Yi Xing. This is my greeting gift, it can protect you. Take it. Yi Mo didn't want Yi Xing to die easily. Yi Xing took the bracelet, and he stared at it for a while before wearing it. Don't you think I'm lying to you? Seeing that Yi Xing wasn't asking him how it could protect him, Yi Mo asked. Yi Xing shook his head. No, from my perspective anything is possible. Many people are limited by their thoughts, so their potential is also limited. Then, Yi Xing gave a bag to Yi Mo and said, this is my gift to you. Northern Sand is trying to capture me mostly because of this. Yi Mo opened the bag and saw 2 extreme energy stones. He immediately asked, extreme energy stones? You actually have this? You know about it too? Yi Xing was surprised. Yi Mo also took out 2 crystals and said, this is the thing I stole from Northern Sand, but I don't know where it comes from. You actually managed to take this from them? Yi Xing looked at the crystal in shock. He finally understood what the problem between Yi Mo and Northern Sand was. But before Yi Mo said anything, he said, they are the same as mine, I brought them with me. I don't know where they come from either, I've forgotten a lot of things, but I do know they are very important. They are a very powerful energy source. Since Marshall Brother has 2 of these, things will be much easier in the future. You can keep them. After all, you are the designer of Luoyu City. Yimo gave them to Yi Xing. Yi Xing took the crystals and said after a moment, Marshall Brother, you are indeed different to the people in Northern Sand. Don't worry, as long as you give me time and money, I will be able to build a city never seen before. Okay, in that case, we'll go to Luoyu City now. Yimo was in a much better mood. Although he hadn't found Luo Ying, he had found an otherworldly Gen-ious. How will we go there? Yi Xing followed Yimo to the surface of the desert and asked. Yimo said, my secret is that I can fly on a sword. Since you told me your secret, I will also tell you mine. Then, Yimo picked up Small Ball and Yi Xing, and they all flew on the sword into the clouds. Flying. No wonder you don't fear Northern Sand. Yi Xing looked into the clouds below Yimo and said that one simple sentence, after which he didn't speak for a long time. But Yimo could tell, Yi Xing was surprised that he could fly, but not as surprised as Ning Qingxue or Luo Xian. Marshall Brother, what were you doing in the desert? Yi Xing soon calmed down and started chatting. Yimo's eyes were full of despair. I came to find my master, Luo Ying. She's also my wife. A few months ago, she came here, but now she's gone. Are you talking about a woman in a pale yellow dress? Yi Xing asked. Yimo replied excitedly, Marshall Brother, have you seen her? Yi Xing nodded. Yes, a few months ago I saw a woman drag a huge rock as she left the desert. So she was your wife. I wondered why she was carrying such a huge rock in the middle of the desert. Yimo sunk into silence. It was Luo Ying who had taken the stone pond indeed. As if he could feel Yimo's sadness, Yi Xing didn't say anything. By the time they got to Luo Yi, Ning Qingxue, Luo Fei and Luo Yin had already returned from Flowing Snake. There was no need to go to Flowing Snake much anymore. Yu Miaodan would be handling things there. Yi Ling didn't come back, she had gone to Beijing. Yimo didn't announce to everyone about Yi Xing's arrival, he just told Xu Ping, Xu Yuhua and Ning Qingxue. He assigned him as the head designer of Luoyu City, who would help Xu Yuhua build the city. Although Yi Xing was very capable, he wasn't good at socializing, so he needed to discuss some matters with Xu Yuhua. Now that Yi Xing had joined them, Yimo could relax knowing that Luoyu City was in good hands. He was sure that with enough time, even if Luoyu City didn't have him present, they could protect themselves. After leaving Ning Qingxue with a Kai increasing pill, Yimo decided to go to the Mai Nei Snow Mountain to find a chance to ascend. Yimo didn't call Zheng Zhengxia. If he could find the crystals, he would give one to Zheng Zhengxia. If not, it would be a waste of time to make him go there. With the map Zheng Zhengxia had left behind, Yimo soon found the cliff. It was indeed where the gourd cave had been before, a place similar to where Yimo had been trapped. Just when Yimo was about to jump into the valley and start digging, a white figure dashed across his eyes. It was that small fox. It was the third time Yimo saw the small thing. The small fox saw Yimo and also stopped to stare at him closely. Yimo really liked the pure white animal, it was very cute. Although Yimo didn't know why it was staring at him instead of running away, he wanted to catch it. Yimo really liked the pure white animal, it was very cute. Although Yimo didn't know why it was staring at him instead of running away, he wanted to catch it. But just as Yimo was about to move, it suddenly dashed and disappeared into the rocks in the valley. It was many times faster than when he had last seen it. Such a strange spirited animal. Yimo's spirit sense locked onto the fox and saw it pass through the crevices in the rocks and disappear into a hole. The hole was very deep and Yimo's spirit sense couldn't reach its inside. Was the spirit well Zheng Zhengxia had talked about in there? It would have been very hard for ancient martial artists to dig open that place, but for an immortal cultivator like Yimo it really wasn't hard. An ancient martial artist would have had to clear all of those rocks, but Yimo only had to scan with his spirit sense and find the nearest tunnel. He could even move the earth and stones with his spirit sense and Kai. It was much easier and time-saving than using inner chi. Moreover, Yimo had a lot of sharp tools. He still had a lot of good weapons those earth-level men had used. Yimo took out his collection and started digging. Despite this, Yimo still spent an entire day to dig out the tunnel and broke almost 10 earth-level weapons. No wonder Feng Wu and Zheng Zhengxia had given up. If they hadn't managed to dig out anything, it would have been a big waste of time. And even if they actually started to dig, it would have taken half a month. The main thing was that if the spirit well was completely covered by rocks, then it would be useless even if they dug it out. And taking into account how much the mountain had collapsed, it was highly possible that the spirit well had been crushed. Yi Mo stood at the entrance of the cave, from where he could see a huge stone wall of tens of meters. Yi Mo approached it and immediately knew that it wasn't natural, it was man-made. No wonder Zheng Zhengxia said it would take 4 people to open it. If he simply destroyed the stone door, without the protection of the stone door the things inside might get damaged, the spirit well might not even work next time someone needed it. However, the stone wall already had a huge crack on it due to the explosion. From the crevice, Yi Mo's spirit sense could scan a thin water creek. Was that the spirit well they talked about? Yi Mo scanned around confused, and he saw 4 milky white crystals on the wall. He was immediately shook. They were spirit stones indeed. Although they were just a few especially low-grade spirit stones, they brought hope to Yi Mo. It motivated him. If spirit stones could form there should be a spirit well. It was very precious in the cultivation realm for Kai-gathering cultivators. One couldn't imagine how valuable it would be on Earth. Yi Mo's heart started beating very fast, but he finally calmed down. He felt he had gotten too excited. It wasn't good for his cultivation. He just couldn't control his joy of finally seeing spirit stones. Yi Mo calmed down for a while and then watched the inside with his spirit sense, after which he was dazed. He saw the small white fox, which was hiding inside the spirit well, staring anxiously at the door. Clearly, he knew someone was here and that the place wouldn't be its from now on. No wonder it had gotten so fast. It had been drinking spirit well water every day. Not even GE got that luxury. Yi Mo took out his flying sword, hacked an opening on the stone door and went in. The white fox was obviously wary of Yi Mo and stared at him closely, but it had no intentions of leaving. Naturally, it liked the place. Yi Mo went to grab the 4 spirit stones immediately. The long-awaited feeling of spirit Kai almost made him cry out of comfort. This is what I need, Yi Mo sighed. He then took out a small jade box and carefully placed them in it. If this had happened in the cultivation realm, people would have been laughing their asses off. Yi Mo started looking at the place carefully. It seemed like a volcanic cave, and there was water seeping from the stone wall. There were 3 stones bulging out. It was probably the place where the top 3 could cultivate at. The 4 spirit stones had been formed by the water that seeped out of the wall. Yi Mo understood what was going on. He had suspected that there might have been a small spirit stone mine behind the stone wall, but when he scanned his spirit sense he realized there wasn't. If it had been a spirit stone mine, then Yi Mo would dig the wall open immediately, but it wasn't. If he dug the wall open, it would destroy the source of the spirit well. Yi Mo took out an egg-sized spirit stone, held it in his hand and sat in the middle of the spirit well. It was almost a luxury for Yi Mo, who had been accustomed to the deprivation of spirit Kai. The small fox saw that Yi Mo didn't touch the well and relaxed. It went to sleep in a corner of the cave and didn't disturb Yi Mo's cultivation. Time flew by during cultivation. It was as though he was back in Luoyu continent and he was cultivating with his master. Yi Mo just kept absorbing spirit Kai, and he had to change to the next spirit stone after the first had been depleted. His already achieved stage 4 middle level soon became stage 4 latter stage, but Yi Mo didn't stop at all. He just enjoyed the satisfaction of rapidly devouring spirit Kai. His meridians were being nourished by spirit Kai. They quickly became stronger and wider. The powerful Kai formed cycles in Yi Mo's body, and when the 3rd stone was almost used up, he reached the peak of stage 4. Yi Mo still didn't wake up. He subconsciously took out the 4th spirit stone and felt more and more spirit Kai filling his meridians. He knew that the opportunity to break through had come, so he increased his speed of taking in spirit Kai rumble as his Kai charged at the limit of his meridians in an attempt to break through. It finally broke through the dam and bursted out, right when the 4th spirit stone was about to run out. Impurities seeped out of Yi Mo's body, and that long river of Kai made Yi Mo acquire a new sense of power. He was at least twice as strong as before and also felt lighter. Yi Mo wanted to howl. He knew he had reached stage 5. When Yi Mo subconsciously wanted to take out another spirit stone to consolidate his power, he found that he had used them all up. Yi Mo opened his eyes and saw that the spirit Kai in the spirit well was much more diluted. He had used up almost everything there. He had only reached stage 5, how could have he used up so many resources? Yi Mo subconsciously looked for the fox, but it had already left. Yi Mo quickly consolidated his power and stood up. It was too hard cultivating there, he had such good conditions but he had only reached one stage higher. Yi Mo casually threw a wind blade and it silently cut a huge hole on the rock. It was much stronger than a regular stage 5 attack. Yi Mo was sure that if he were to fight Wang Lenchan again, he would be able to crush him head-on with just a wind blade. His wind blade was still lacking for great heaven masters like Ren Pingchuan, though. Yi Mo was sure that if he were to fight Wang Lenchan again, he would be able to crush him head-on with just a wind blade. His wind blade was still lacking for great heaven masters like Ren Pingchuan, though. Looking back at the spirit well, Yi Mo didn't touch it. Perhaps in a few more years, he would be able to get a few more spirit stones. He had much more confidence in cultivation now. If he had found spirit stones once, who could say he wouldn't find them a second time? When the blue flower blue leaf grass had fully matured, then even without spirit stones he would be capable of concocting Kai increasing pills and reaching the tertiary stage of Kai gathering with them. Yi Mo was sure that even though he was still no match for Great Heaven now, once he reached the Kai gathering tertiary stage, he would be able to slaughter them. Yi Mo cleaned himself and left the stone hole. He let that small fox live here for now, it didn't damage the spirit well at all. It didn't know how to cultivate after all and only drank some water. When Yi Mo blocked up the tunnel he dug out, Yi Mo felt a fit of hunger. He didn't know how long he had been in the cave. His phone was long since out of battery. Yi Mo desperately wanted to know how Luoyu City was, so he didn't even take the time to eat and just boarded his flying sword and flew to Luoyu desperately. At this moment, in a newly built crescent moon-shaped building, Xu Yuhua, Ning Qingxue, Xu Ping, Yi Xing, Zhong Jiayan and Li Sandao sat by a round table with serious expressions on their faces. Something had happened at Luoyu City. Zhong Jiayan was supposed to be responsible for things at Flowing Snake, yet even he had also come to Luoyu for this. Luoyu was under attack. There were many masters in Luoyu who were good at individual fights, but no one knew how to fight a war, so Zhong Jiayan had moved here. We lost 3 of our 10 ships. If this continues, we will lose all of our ships soon, Li Sandao said worriedly. Yi Xing raised his eyebrow, if I had another year, or even half a year, the new warships I could design would beat their pirate asses. Li Sandao frowned, there's no use talking about that now. We're too close to the Yading pirates, and none of us are good at maritime warfare. It's natural that we're no match for them. We can only wait for the city lord to come back. I'm very curious why these pirates only destroy our port and warships. Why do they not charge on land? What good does this do them? Ning Qingxue really wanted Yi Mo to come back too, but she knew that Yi Mo had gone out to make a breakthrough. Once he succeeded, he would come back for sure. Xu Ping immediately said, Sister-in-law, you don't understand. These pirates might be dominant at sea, but once they're on land, they're timid. So they don't dare come on land, because if they did, even if I didn't do anything, Sandao alone could finish them off. Xu Yuhua shook her head, second brother Xu, I don't think you answered Ning Qingxue's question. These pirates would only do things for their benefit. Destroying our ports and ships holds no benefits for them. They would only get those benefits if they tried to reach land, yet they didn't. I think second brother Xu is partially right, but there's another possibility too. They might have come to an agreement with someone and agreed to stop the construction of our city. Then there's yet another possibility. They might be waiting for backup. Once that backup arrives, that's when they would come on land and raid our city. Then what do we do, Sister Yuhua? Luo Fei quickly asked. Xu Yuhua sighed, we can only hope Guoqi and company can stop them for a while and wait for the city lord to come back. We can't stop the pirates' attack in any other way. We had too little time. If we had a year or 2 more, Yi Xing could design a Luoyu that's like a metal bucket. Besides, do you really think they're mere pirates? I don't think it's that simple. Guo Qi and Fang Wei stood on the deck of a ship as they looked at the pirate ships through their telescopes. They had never experienced a sea battle before. Although they had been in the special forces, they had usually fought in forests and knew nothing about sea battles. Brother Guo, when do you think their next attack will come? Fang Wei walked over with red eyes. Guo Qi shook his head seriously. I don't know, but I'm sure that these pirates didn't use their full power yet. Their ships are better than ours. Where do you think they got such good ships? We've seen reports of the Somali pirates. They're just a bunch of criminals driving jet skis with a couple of rocket launchers. Since when do pirates have such fierce weapons? I'm sure some country is behind this. We're not good at sea battles, so we can only wait for Brother Yi to come back. You're saying that they haven't used their full power yet? Fang Wei cried in surprise. Guo Qi nodded. Yes, if they had attacked with full power, we wouldn't even have lasted till today. We're lacking a commander for sea battles, and we have very few battleships. We don't have submarines nor planes. Without air support, doing sea battles is like being a bird without wings. Luckily, the pirates don't have airplanes either, or we would only be able to run. Captain, the radar shows signs of attack again. A soldier ran up quickly and reported. Most of these Marines were Li Sandao's men. Li Sandao knew sea battles better than the people from Flowing Snake after all. Cannons ready. Guo Qi's face didn't look too good. He wasn't afraid of war, but he sure didn't like this feeling of being suppressed. After Yi Mo broke through to stage 5, he shot into the sky on his flying sword and appeared above Luo Yu only 20 minutes later. The scene he witnessed, though, made him furious. A fleet of ships was charging towards Luo Yu fearlessly. It obviously had very strong ships. Appearing weak meant getting beaten. He had only been out for a few days, yet people were already acting cocky at his doorstep. Although Yi Mo didn't know who would be commanding his side's fleet, he knew that no matter who was commanding it, they would be no match for the enemy. The main ship of this black fleet looked around 100 meters long. Although Yi Mo didn't know maritime warfare, he could guess that this ship had to be the commanding ship, so without thinking any further, he charged down towards that ship. At the same time, in that ship's command center, a short-haired man stared deadly at the radar screen and kept frowning. What's going on, David? An officer came in and asked. General Louis, I just saw a target on the radar, but it disappeared immediately. I'm sure that I didn't see wrong, though. This place is very eerie, David replied. At this moment, Yi Mo had landed outside the command center and considered that if he went invisible, the radar might not detect him. David, has your head been stuffed by women too much? This battle is very simple. When Commander Sean comes, we will be able to attack on land. I heard that there's quite a lot of beautiful women in Luo Yu, so at that time, you can enjoy as much as you want, haha. Louis' joke didn't make David feel assured as he still looked at the radar carefully. Yi Mo passed by many Marines before entering the command center. Then he appeared and said, no need to be attacking any land. You're called Louis? Why do you look like a pig? Yi Mo's sudden appearance sent the command center into chaos. Louis might be fat, but he reacted immediately and yelled, kill him. 2 Marines pulled out their guns, but before they could even raise it, they were sliced up by Yi Mo's wind blade. Louis looked at the blooded bodies and didn't know what to say. He was shocked. The sound of more desperate footsteps sounded as a few more Marines charged in. Yi Mo didn't have any mercy and cut them all with his wind blades. He was stage 5 now, and he wouldn't feel pressured even if he used 100 or so wind blades at the same time. The sound of more desperate footsteps sounded as a few more Marines charged in. Yi Mo didn't have any mercy and cut them all with his wind blades. He was stage 5 now, and he wouldn't feel pressured even if he used 100 or so wind blades at the same time. Louis saw that Yi Mo had just waved his hand and his fully armed soldiers fell down one by one, and he couldn't even stand up. He lied collapsed on the floor. David and the 2 other technical engineers inside the room also witnessed this eerie scene in shock. Yi Mo hadn't killed the commanding officers in there yet, though. The command center was blooded, but no one dared make a sound. Does any of you here understand Chinese? Yi Mo scanned the rest and asked. A half-Chinese man stood up and said hesitantly, I'm from China. I understand Chinese. Yimo looked at the man in contempt and said, "Who's the commanding officer here? Make him make all your ships stop." The man conveyed the message to the other two. Then the fat man understood what was up and spoke in something that was obviously not English. Yimo frowned and asked the translator, "What did that pig say?" The man quickly answered, "He asked who you are and why you came here, killing so many of our men. There's no way he would surrender." Yimo waved his hand and a wind blade sliced that Louis in half. Then, he turned back to the half-blood and said, "Ask who else doesn't want to surrender." The man translated and the remaining two quickly said they would surrender. Yimo gave them a few black pills and said, "I'm going to keep killing those who don't surrender for now. After you eat that, put up a white flag. This is poison. If you truly surrender, I will give you the antidote, otherwise you can go die." The three all ate it and promised they would truly surrender. Before they finished talking, though, Yimo had already dashed out of the command center. "Who is he?" "God, he's a demon," the tall skinny white man said after Yimo left. David sneered, "Didn't I say there's a lot of people with magical powers in China? See, I was right. This person is definitely a mutant. I'm sure that it was him that the radar had scanned at first, but he could even hide from the radar. Li Lan, is he a mutant?" Li Lan, who was the half-blooded man, shook his head and didn't reply. Just as the three were getting anxious, Yimo came back and asked David, "Who's the commanding officer here?" "The highest was Louis before, David is the second in command," Li Lan said. "I see, you and David can come with me, then." Yimo pointed at the two. The two didn't dare resist at all and followed Yimo to the deck, notifying all crew members to gather. "David, announce your surrender and make them put down their weapons," Yimo said coldly. The couple of hundred people present heard that and exploded in fury. They clearly had the advantage and with one charge, Luo Yu would be theirs. Why surrender? Many officers charged out and yelled, "Why are we surrendering? We want to see General Louis." Yimo wouldn't give them the chance to keep talking, so before they finished, Yimo sent out tens of wind blades, and they were all sliced in half. The sea wind spread the smell of blood, and the atmosphere on deck got quite ghastly. The boisterous scene from before turned extremely silent with the tens of bodies sliced in half laying around. This wasn't an era where war was common after all. This bloody scene was too much for a lot of Marines to handle. Some even started puking. This time Li Lan knew what he needed to do. He felt that Yimo didn't really like him, so he quickly called out, "This decision to surrender was made by Vice Commander David. Who dares not surrender, come forward." Yimo nodded in satisfaction. He thought that it was lucky for this Li Lan that he had some eyes, or he would be the first Yimo would kill. "David, I'll leave this place to you. Make them understand the situation. You and Li Lan, come to the second ship." Then, Yimo went to the second ship. As though sensing the anomaly on the commanding ship, the other ships were all ready for battle, but Yimo controlled the captains just like before and killed all those who resisted. Just tens of minutes later, Yimo had controlled the entire fleet. An hour later, Yimo had acquired a patrol ship, 2 chasing ships, 2 normal ships and 4 guard ships. 2 nuclear-powered submarines had escaped, though. "We'll go back and fire at him. He's just one man by himself." When one ship's crew realized that Yimo was just by himself, they wanted to turn back to him. Yimo sneered and turned invisible before appearing on that ship. The people aboard saw how Yimo was clearly on the other ship just a moment before, far away from them. How had he suddenly appeared on their ship? No one could even react. Yimo knew that if he didn't keep killing, more people would rebel. Yimo had only killed 13 men before and there were still about 300 remaining. So now, Yimo flung out wind blades as the Marines were like balls, either killed or kicked into the water. A few people who reacted quickly had opened fire, but they still couldn't avoid their fate. The other ship's captain, who had also been planning to rebel, subconsciously ducked his head and put away the gun in his hands. He had the feeling that the moment he opened fire, he would just be the first to die. He was screaming in his heart, "Is this guy still human?" This was out of everyone's comprehension. Seeing Yimo's ferocity, many Marines who had still been struggling before didn't dare move anymore. One Marine saw that one of his colleagues was swimming to his ship and wanted to throw out a rope, but as soon as he did, he was sliced in half and fell into the sea. Seeing this, no one dared move again at all. Yi Mo had decided that if any other ship rebelled, he would immediately kill them all. Guo Qi suddenly saw that the incoming black ship had raised a white flag. Just as he thought his sight was getting blurry, his troops reported the same thing as well. Guo Qi now realized that he had seen right. Was this a scheme? But what would raising a white flag do? Let's go over and check. Guo Qi waved his hand. It's Brother Yi, I can see him. Fang Wei put down the telescope in excitement. Guo Qi also saw Yi Mo and became excited. So their big boss had attacked. No wonder those fearsome pirates had surrendered. Go over as fast as possible. Guo Qi no longer felt stressed and waved his hand in excitement. It seemed that Yi Mo had controlled all of their ships, and if this fleet joined Luo Yu, their maritime power would increase manyfolds. Yi Mo waved his hand. All these ships belong to us now. Take care of the surrendered Marines and kill those who resist. We'll talk about other things once we get back to shore. Brother Yi, a Chinese man says that he has something very important to tell you. After all the ships had been controlled, Fang Wei rushed inside and reported this. Brother Yi, a Chinese man says that he has something very important to tell you. After all the ships had been controlled, Fang Wei rushed inside and reported this. Something very important. Yi Mo thought. The ships were his and all the rebellious pirates had been killed. What was the matter then? Tell him to come over. Although he didn't know what it was about, he might as well hear the person. If it was some absurd request, he would kick him into the sea. Soon Fang Wei brought a man that seemed to be in his 50s. Yi Mo estimated that he was only in his 40s, but due to staying in the sea for a long time he seemed older. His eyebrows were thick. I'm Huang Yinian, city leader Yi, the man saluted with his fist. Yi Mo nodded. Huang Yinian, you don't belong with the rest of the men that were on board, right? Tell me, what is the important matter you need to tell me? If you don't talk, then you'll be joining the others at the bottom of the sea. The main members of the Black Fleet aren't pirates. Although there are some, there are very few of them like me, Huang Yinian said. Yi Mo nodded, he didn't doubt that. Seeing this, Huang Yinian continued, ever since I heard of Luo Yu City, I always wanted to join, but I didn't have the chance. I had no means of coming here, so I couldn't leave my life behind. Although we do welcome all sorts of people to help build Luo Yu, not everyone can come. We don't welcome pirates like you, Yi Mo said plainly. He could tell that Huang Yinian was capable. The reason Yi Mo captured the 2,000 Marines wasn't because he was merciful, but because he really needed a lot of people to build Luo Yu. These people were free labor. For those who truly and wholeheartedly surrendered, he could arrange for them to join the Luo Yu Navy. Huang Yinian wasn't discouraged, he took a deep breath and said, I know. Allow me to introduce myself. I was born in Dalian, China, and I went with my parents to the US when I was 11. I joined the naval school at the age of 17. I started to serve in the 7th Fleet when I was 21. 2 years later, I went to war and gathered enough laurels to be appointed sergeant. Within the next 8 years, I went to secret wars for the US and became brigadier general. But because I was Chinese, the Americans had their concerns. Then, the next year I received an order to take a fleet to China for a mission. When I received the mission, I refused. I was still Chinese, despite serving in the US military. Yi Mo smiled, you managed to reach brigadier general in less than 20 years, I believe in your naval skills. The reason the Americans gave you such sensitive order at a time like this was probably because they recognize your skills and wanted to do more with you. They sent you in this mission to test you. Huang Yinian looked at Yi Mo in shock. He had only realized that afterwards, at the time he had just refused that order. He nodded in despair, regardless, I wouldn't lead a US fleet to attack China. After I rejected that mission, I wasn't given any more missions. The next year, my parents died in a strange shooting. I suspected that it had something to do with the government, but I had no evidence. I was tired of the country, I was prepared to sell all my assets and go back to China, but then, I realized that my bank account had been frozen. They said that my parents had been involved in money laundering and needed to be investigated. That year, my wife took my daughter and divorced with me. I was full of despair and I was prepared to give up my wealth to leave the US, but I was denied my leave. Yimo sneered, they somehow held you prisoner. In the case of someone like Huang Yinian, even if the US couldn't use him, they wouldn't just let him go to another country, much less China. Huang Yinian nodded, yes, I realized that when I was denied to leave the country, but I wasn't going to give up just like that. There months later I escaped the US on a cargo ship. This ship happened to be attacked by pirates, so I decided in that time to join the pirates. I didn't go back to China, I knew that even if I went back, I might be sent back to the US. So, you stayed a pirate for almost a decade? Yimo asked. Huang Yinian said, yes, however, I've been wanting to rejoin an actual fleet, the naval army I so passionately love all this time. I saw that Luo Yu didn't know anything about naval battles at all from this campaign, so I wished to join Luo Yu and contribute to the naval army. Then, Huang Yinian looked at Yimo and said again, don't ask me why, I'm simply Chinese and so are you. You said that Chinese would have special considerations when moving to Luo Yu. I know of your ideals, and they're the same as mine. I don't want to stay a pirate forever. Yimo thought for a moment and said, I can let you join Luo Yu, but I still need to test you to see if you can become a part of our navy. If you're willing to be tested by me, close your eyes and let go of the control over your mind. Huang Yinian did as Yimo said without hesitation. Yimo nodded and used his means to ask Huang Yinian a few questions. Everything was just as he had told him before. Yimo woke Huang Yinian up and said, okay, Huang Yinian, since you're genuine, I will allow you to join Luo Yu City. You will be the commander of our navy, responsible for Luo Yu's power at sea. I hope you will do as well as you promise. Yes, City Lord. Huang Yinian saluted. Although he had managed to join Luo Yu, he still felt fear towards Yimo for his means. Luckily, he had spoken the truth. If he had been a spy, he would be dead already. Yimo called Guoqi and told him that Huang Yinian would be the commander of their navy. Guoqi was to return to land. Guoqi was very happy. He knew he wasn't made for navy battles and immediately handed Huang Yinian full control over the navy. Huang Yinian, do you know if it's the US who attacked Luo Yu this time? Yimo voiced his suspicions. Huang Yinian shook his head, this wasn't the US's fleet. I don't know which country sent them, though. I was only a small boss among pirates, so I wasn't let in on a lot of matters. Yimo waved his hand. Then, he called David and Li Lan. Which country do you come from? Yimo asked. David and Li Lan looked at each other. Then David used his broken Chinese to reply, Indonesia. Yimo frowned. Why were they attacking Luo Yu? He hadn't offended them, had he? You're Indonesian. Why are you attacking us? Yimo's face sunk. No, Li Lan explained, we're not an Indonesian force, only a part of us are. We hail from the Blue Ray Corporation in Africa. We were hired. The Indonesians hate the Chinese, so since they heard that some Chinese had taken over Siena, they Yimo was speechless. Li Lan glanced at Yimo carefully and then said, us and the pirates were all just hired by Indonesia, except for Captain Louis and some Indonesian troops. They wanted to attack Luo Yu and then suck up to the US. Yimo sneered. That would never have ended well. The US wanted nothing more but for Luo Yu to build faster. How could they appreciate these guys attacking Luo Yu? The decision maker for Indonesia was an idiot. Okay, Fang Wei, get the Indonesian soldiers to start working at the construction sites. If they don't do enough work, don't give them food. If they feel like starting a riot, kill them. Yimo had no mercy for these people. Okay, Fang Wei, get the Indonesian soldiers to start working at the construction sites. If they don't do enough work, don't give them food. If they feel like starting a riot, kill them. Yimo had no mercy for these people. Yes, Brother Yi. Just as Yimo walked onto the dock, he received news that Xu Yuhua and company were waiting for him near the docks. No one expected that such a disastrous predicament would be solved the moment Yimo appeared. After hearing what Yimo did, Yimo became someone who could do anything in their minds. Yimo. Ning Qingshue's eyes were red. She walked over and held Yimo's hand but didn't say anything. She knew that if those pirates had succeeded at entering land, she would only have been able to commit suicide. Otherwise, with her appearance, her outcome would have been horrendous. We'll talk when we're back home. Yimo patted Ning Qingshue's hand and felt guilty. He couldn't even let the people around him live in safety. Sandow, bring these captives to the construction sites. Guoqi, organize the ships and report back. Commander Huang, come with me to the meeting room. Yimo was angry, but he knew now wasn't the time for revenge. He would visit those who tried to reap benefits from Luo Yu one by one later on. The meeting room was full once again, but unlike before, Yimo had returned. I present to you the man who will be the commander of Luo Yu's navy from now on, Mr. Huang Yinian, Yimo introduced. This time's perpetrators were the Blue Ray Corporation from South Africa and some pirates, but the real mastermind was Indonesia. I took a closer look at the map, and Indonesia is indeed very close to us. Then, Yimo looked at everyone and said, if anyone has any ideas on how to react, please speak up. Xu Yuhua knew what Yimo meant. She knew that Yimo looked calm on the surface but was planning on mercilessly killing all the people who had offended him. I suggest we simply announce that we shall investigate the party responsible for the attack and proclaim that we will react with military action. Right now, our main goal is to build Luo Yu and not to fight, Xu Yuhua said. Yimo nodded, I agree, we don't have that power now anyways. Then, everyone voiced their opinions, and Yixing insisted on building an aerial defense system first. Yimo knew that would cost money, large amounts of it. Eventually, everyone agreed on their respective main jobs and left. Yimo would also be getting busy, because people had come for the Luo Yu Immortal Hospital again. After the meeting, Yimo and Ning Qingxue wanted to talk, but then Luo Fei and Luo Yin came. Yimo, we're leaving Luo Yu. We're here to say goodbye, Luo Yin said. You're going? Why? Is it because of the inner qi restriction inside of you? I can now remove it for you if you want. Yimo was confident he would be able to do it. Luo Yin shook her head, thank you, but I must go back. The 3 years' time is about to be up. I'm worried about Luo Shua. Also, our master will be very sad if we don't go back. Yimo didn't try to dissuade them. With the announcement of Luo Yu preparing to use military means, the world's gaze was once again focused on Luo Yu. The media felt astonished that Luo Yu had the power to defend against a fleet of ships and to even take them all down. No one knew how Luo Yu had done it. America was the angriest. When they found out that it was Indonesia who had attacked Luo Yu, they were furious. The US cared even more about Luo Yu than about the Black Sun Empire or the UFO on the Pacific. They just wanted the recipe for the health pill. With it, their soldiers' power would increase many times over without any side effects. They wouldn't have the money to purchase the pills on a large scale, so they were determined to take Luo Yu. But just as their foreign affairs minister arrived at Indonesia to warn them, he got the news that Indonesia's ships had been completely defeated. Although this was what the US had hoped for, they became suspicious again. How did some newcomer company beat a fleet of ships? They had to investigate this matter up to the most minuscule of details of the battle. Yimo was waiting to destroy Indonesia's fighter jets as soon as they came, but contrary to his expectations, Indonesia didn't do anything for a whole week. However, there were spies and journalists from all over the world rushing over. As to these people, Yimo only had one order: capture them to help with the construction. Those who resisted were to be killed. Yimo's decision made many people stop their tracks. However, a certain famous news channel reported that Luo Yu abused people like slaves and disregarded human rights. They even managed to get some photos of the construction sites. But Yimo ignored this. The US government had to stand up for this, though, so they requested Luo Yu to release the slaves, but they were also annoyed by the news channel being so nosy. To them, the more slaves the better. So, the US government only reproached a little and didn't say that much of it. Some people were unhappy with the US's response, and soon, news of US soldiers abusing Iraqi captives were released as well. Yimo didn't care about these verbal battles. He just kept on doing what he needed to do. Yi Mo was busy these couple of days, because although Yi Xing was designing the city and Xu Yuhua was responsible for building it, he still needed to go around and check if there were areas that needed to be modified for laying down formations in the future. One day, just as Yi Mo got to the naval training grounds, Fang Wei rushed over. "Brother Yi, someone says she's your friend, and she's waiting for you in the guest hall." "Why are you here?" Yi Mo went to the meeting room and saw it was Han Yang. She sat there anxiously. She was at black level stage now and should be with her sect. Although he didn't know why she had come, he realized she must have something important to say. "Why are you here?" Yi Mo went to the meeting room and saw it was Han Yang. She sat there anxiously. She was at black level stage now and should be with her sect. Although he didn't know why she had come, he realized she must have something important to say. Seeing Yi Mo walk in, Han Yang got up immediately. Her expression was uneasy and said, "Brother Yi, my grandpa sent me here to ask you if you need help. If you do, you can just call him. Whether it's military or financial support, he can provide you some help with handling the country." Although he knew that Elder Han meant weapons and not sending armies, Yi Mo was still grateful. To be willing to offer help, it meant that he really considered him a friend. Although Elder Han had an important status in the Chinese military, it would still be a lot of pressure for him to say this. Yi Mo told Han Yang to sit down and said, "Thank Elder Han for me, I don't need any help. However, if I do, I won't hesitate to ask for help. But why are you so uneasy?" "I haven't asked Elder Han for help yet." Han Yang waved her hand. "It's not because of this that I'm here, that was just my grandpa asking me to bring you that message. I want you to help me with something else." Then, Han Yang said hesitantly, "My sect no longer has the appropriate conditions to train due to pollution. My master is very troubled, it's very hard to switch locations, especially among the hidden sects." Pollution? Yi Mo felt it was odd. He had been to many hidden sects, such as Serenity or Jian Kang, and these places were very hidden and very far away. Pollution wouldn't even be able to reach there. Han Yang nodded. "It's because there's a silver mine near our place, it's being dug up now and pollution is flowing upstream. There's some foreign paper-making factory which is releasing large amounts of waste and hacking down a lot of trees nearby. Because of that, our environment is getting worse and worse." Han Yang looked up and said, "Brother Yi, this place is yours now and it is so pretty. Can we move here?" "You want to move to Luo Yu?" Yi Mo looked stranged. Hidden sects usually needed to remain hidden. Although Luo Yu had a quite nice natural environment, as time went by there would be more people. Then it wouldn't be hidden anymore. Han Yang nodded and then said, "I still haven't told my master, but seeing how my master's worries, I came to ask you first. If you agree, then I will go back and tell my master. Also, my master just wants a quiet place, he doesn't really care if it's hidden. I fell in love with this place as soon as I came and I think my master will love it here." Yi Mo smiled. "Luo Yu has a very small population at the moment, but it has a lot of land. Of course, I welcome you to stay, I will find someone to show you around. If you like it here, then find a quiet place and settle. I will ask Sister Yuhua to help." Seeing this, Han Yang stood up excitedly. "Thank you, Brother Yi. I still have some money from the tournament from last time, I can build our own place with it. I will go back and discuss this with my master. Afterwards, I'll come talk to you about it. By the way, Brother Yi, my grandpa also said that he found where the rest of the blueprints of the space flower are. They are said to be at a base in Taiwan. The Americans also know of its whereabouts and are actively trying to get it," Han Yang said. "Did your grandpa send people to get it?" Yi Mo asked with a frown. Han Yang shook her head. "Not yet, but he will soon. My grandpa said that if you're interested you can go together, but if you're too busy then never mind." Yi Mo got up and looked at Han Yang and said, "Han Yang, I won't lie to you nor take my words back. If your grandpa trusts me, then tell him not to go find that blueprint. Even if he finds it, it would be useless. Moreover, that blueprint can't be found that easily. People would only be hurt if they went, there's no need." "Why?" Han Yang asked in confusion. Before Yi Mo had agreed to go help find the blueprint, So why was he saying now that it was useless? Yi Mo shook his head and didn't answer. Seeing this made Han Yang a bit disappointed, but she knew that if Yi Mo could answer, he would. Since he didn't, it meant that he had his concerns. She only had to take his words back. Although he couldn't reply to that, Yi Mo still found Sansai and told him to accompany Han Yang. Sansai had been Lang Ji's man in the past and he followed Li Sandao after Lang Ji died. After Han Yang left, Yi Mo sunk into contemplation. Since Han Yang's sect was willing to come to Luo Yu, what about the other hidden sects? Luo Yu had very large pieces of land, and the more people the better. Yi Mo wouldn't reject those sects who wanted to come to Luo Yu. Yi Mo was quite grateful for Elder Han's goodwill. There were so many news about Luo Yu recently, he would have heard of it for sure, and he still offered his help. Yi Mo wasn't going to intervene with the blueprint anymore for sure. Yi Xing had designed it and he was already there. If he had enough time, he could design it again. Furthermore, the critical flaw of the blueprint was the need of an extreme energy stone. Without it, it couldn't be operated. No matter how advanced it was, if it couldn't be operated it would be waste of time. Even in the case of Han Zixin, if Yi Mo told him that Yi Xing had designed the space flower and that he was in Luo Yu, it would harm both Yi Xing and Luo Yu. Also, he already warned Han Zixin. If he didn't believe him, then there was nothing he could do about it. With Sansai's guidance, Han Yang found a place she liked after a few days and named it the Guanghan Mountain after her sect, the Guanghan sect. As soon as she left, new people arrived. This time it was the Blue Ray Corporation from South Africa. They were a renowned mercenary company. Yi Mo saw two people entering the guest hall. One was a white-faced man that was less than 40 years old. He was dressed very well but his eyes made Yi Mo uncomfortable, they were dodgy. The second one was a young woman in her 20s, she had blonde hair and blue eyes, and her skin was very good. Mr. Yi, hello, I'm Dongfang Tang and this is my assistant Shana. I've heard of you and your power before, but I didn't expect you to be so young. It's my honor to be able to see you. The man spoke fluent Chinese. Yi Mo could tell he was Chinese. Dongfang Tang? Yi Mo immediately thought of Dongfang Shi. He felt that the two men had something in common. Mr. Yi, greetings, I'm Shana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Her Chinese wasn't fluent and she had a Western accent. Please have a seat. Yi Mo pointed at one of the chairs but didn't shake hands with them. Seeing this, Dongfang Tang's face went stale, but he quickly managed to keep a straight face and sat down as thought nothing had happened. Shana was dazed for a moment. She thought Yi Mo was very impolite, but she wasn't the person in charge of negotiation and so she didn't say anything. Yi Mo had seen the change in Dongfang Tang's expression. It had just been a moment, but it couldn't escape his spirit sense. Yi Mo wasn't sure if he was related to Dongfang Shi, but he was sure he wasn't someone easy to deal with. Seeing that Yi Mo just sat down without saying anything, Dongfang Shi grinned and said again, Mr. Yi, I'm representing Blue Ray Corporation to discuss some business with you. Yi Mo said plainly, Blue Ray Corporation? Never heard of it. Dongfang Tang's expression finally looked angry. Blue Ray Corporation was a renowned mercenary company all over the world, but Yi Mo had claimed he'd never heard of it. This was a slap in the face. Moreover, a lot of people from their company were being kept by Luo Yu. Even if he hadn't heard of it before, he would have heard of it by now. Dongfang Tang's expression finally looked angry. Blue Ray Corporation was a renowned mercenary company all over the world, but Yi Mo had claimed he'd never heard of it. This was a slap in the face. Moreover, a lot of people from their company were being kept by Luo Yu. Even if he hadn't heard of it before, he would have heard of it by now. Yi Mo sneered. Although Dongfang Tang was not bad, he still seemed a bit immature. Why would the corporation send someone who couldn't control his facial expressions? Yi Mo subconsciously looked at Shana and thought that perhaps he had showed that face for Shana to see. If that was the case, then Dongfang Tang was craftier than Dongfang Shi. Dongfang Tang took a little longer to recover his composure this time. He felt Yi Mo was no easy target for negotiation. Mr. Yi, then we'll be straightforward. Due to a recent minor conflict with you, some of the people from our corporation are being held here. Although this is a misunderstanding, it's still our fault. We're willing to compensate you for your losses as long as you let us bring back our people, Dongfang Tang said. Yi Mo frowned. Your people had conflict with us? How come I don't know? I think you're mistaken. If it's just this, please leave. Seeing that Shana still sat there without saying anything, Dongfang Tang could only add, of course, our company wouldn't get into a conflict with you. It is well known that we're just a security company. Sometimes we get paid in order to help our clients get some things done. The reason why our people were sent here was due to others hiring us. Yi Mo disapproved quietly. Calling a mercenary corporation a security company was truly shameless. Yi Mo said casually, "Oh, can you explain the situation to me meticulously? You're the first one I'm hearing this from." Dongfang Tang didn't expect that Yi Mo would force him to admit things. He sunk into silence indecisively. One thing was recognizing that they were involved, another thing was admitting who had led the attack. All the world was reporting about the pirate fleet attacks on Luo Yu. But anyone who wasn't an idiot would know that it wasn't a regular pirate attack. Since when did they have their own fleets? A country was attacking Luo Yu for sure. As long as Luo Yu didn't point fingers, other people wouldn't. Even the most audacious news channel wouldn't dare to guess which country did it without definite evidence. If it got exposed, it would become an international conflict. The fact that Yi Mo had asked this meant that he wanted Dongfang Tang to reveal who was the mastermind behind it. Luo Yu had the power to annihilate a fleet. Who knows if they would use it as an excuse to start a war. Although he knew that Luo Yu City didn't have the power or the guts to do it, Dongfang Tang still didn't dare say it. It happened like this: we saw news reports about your city being attacked by a fleet, so we later on realized that it had been low-level people from our company that contacted the pirates to invade Luo Yu. We express our deep apologies for this and we would like to show our genuine contrite. Dongfang Tang talked about it, but still managed not to involve Indonesia. Slap Yi Mo stood up and said coldly, "So, you're saying it was Blu-ray Corporation that attacked Luo Yu City? Don't you dare put the blame on some pirate. I will go to your corporation and, since you dared try to invade Luo Yu, don't blame me for attacking your bay." Dongfang Tang was shook. He hadn't expected Yi Mo to suddenly change his expression so drastically. Moreover, he had spoke of the bay, which meant that he had investigated where their corporation stored their mercenaries. In that case, there's nothing to discuss between us. Goodbye. Dongfang Tang stood up and turned away to leave. Yi Mo added coldly, "Tell your General Kuyu that in a week I will turn the South African Bay into a bloodbath. Tell him to prepare himself." Dongfang Tang almost stumbled on these words. A bloodbath in their bay? Did he not think their thousands of mercenaries were humans? But from his words it was more than clear that he had thoroughly investigated them and that he even knew who the general was. He still wanted to add something, but Dongfang Tang knew that he couldn't negotiate with Yi Mo anymore. He had nothing to negotiate with. Seeing the two visitors leave in a hurry, Yi Mo sneered. He was sure that Kuyu would come to Luo Yu. Although it was partially a threat, if Kuyu didn't come, he would actually annihilate his corporation. As for the Indonesian Navy, he wouldn't do anything about it yet. Yi Mo wanted to wait until Luo Yu's defenses were perfected before he crippling their navy. He had never been someone who would suck it up after getting attacked. This was his principle in the cultivation realm. A peaceful life couldn't be attained by being timid, it was one with power. Yi Mo walked out of the guest hall and saw Huang Yinian and Guo Qi approaching him hurriedly with 30 or 40 people. Yet, they didn't seem worried, they were excited instead. "Brother Yi, these people are mercenaries from the Blu-ray Corporation. They wish to join Luo Yu, so I brought them over. Many of them are good soldiers." Guo Qi pointed at the people behind him. "Yes, City Lord, some of their naval capabilities are no lesser than mine. They were hired for a high price and some of them are also Air Force and on-land special soldiers. They joined the mercenary corporation for money," Huang Yinian said quickly. He saw Yi Mo studying these people, so Huang Yinian after a moment quickly pointed at a black man and said, "His Mike's son, originally a captain of the 6th U.S. Fleet but got sacked due to a critical error. He came to the mercenary company to earn some money. The thin tall one behind him is called Tony. He was a lieutenant in the British Air Force. His wife had an affair with one of his higher-ups and he caught them, So he killed them and escaped to the mercenary corporation to get rich. Huang Yinian pointed at the men one by one, and Yi Mo soon found out that each and every one of them had their own story. All of them had been elite members in the army. Yi Mo now realized why the Blu-ray Corporation wanted them back. They had been hired for a hefty price. Okay, Commander Huang, Captain Guo, you can assign them to their respective roles. We don't have planes nor an air force for now, but it's only a matter of time. Let Tony be responsible for the air force establishment. And if any of these people wish to live in Luoyu long term, they can have their own piece of land and bring their families here. Yi Mo called the shot. Not even Blu-ray Corporation wanted to give these people up. Yi Mo paused for a moment and commented, if there are still people like them that wish to stay in Luoyu, we will welcome them greatly. Their treatment will be at the very least as good as the corporation they worked on before. We are the most profitable business in the world. Yes, Huang Yinian took these people and left. Yi Mo was very happy that Luoyu's military was beginning to take form. He was sure that once Luoyu could protect itself, with him and Yixing all the money in the world would flow to Luoyu. Meanwhile, Kuyu was walking around in circles. He regretted taking that mission from Indonesia. They had earned many times hundreds of millions by settling conflicts within countries, but this time they had lost their entire army. Kuyu had thought a city newly established by some company would have no battle power to worry about, but unexpectedly reality was this different from what he had anticipated. Kuyu had thought a city newly established by some company would have no battle power to worry about, but unexpectedly reality was this different from what he had anticipated. He might have only sent 500 people, but they were all elites of the corporation. And now they were all captured. The most they had ever lost in the past was a little over 10. Although he didn't want to send people to negotiate with Luoyu, their loss was simply too great. Indonesia wasn't doing anything either. Instead, they told them to negotiate with Luoyu to win back the fleet and captured soldiers. This made Kuyu very annoyed. He didn't want to listen to those Indonesian officials, but he had to. If he didn't get his people back, his squadron's battle power would decrease greatly. Soldiers were always found easily but not elite fighters. Dong Fang Tang and Shana's expressions weren't too good. Kuyu didn't have to ask anything to be able to tell the result from their face. Sit down and tell me how it went. Have they already rejected? Kuyu poured 2 cups of water for them. At that moment, Dong Fang Tang realized that he hadn't even gotten a cup of water from Luoyu. He reported Yi Mo's arrogant attitude and words exactly. Slam! Kuyu slammed the table. Yi Mo was that rude and was supposedly going to turn his bay into a bloodbath. Such arrogance. Kuyu's face was full of killing intent. Ever since their corporation was established, they had been through countless conflicts and wars. Other than one mission in 2001, they had never failed before. Even small countries didn't dare utter such words to them, yet a mere pharmaceutical company dared to imagine turning them into bloodbaths and whatnot. They were too cocky. Find Edward, I will turn his Luoyu into a bloodbath before he can even try it with us. Kuyu was furious. No need, I'm here. A robust white man walked in. He was very sturdy and had curly hair. He had the typical soldier look. Edward was the advisor of Blu-ray Corporation, a very experienced soldier. He walked in and sat down. After Kuyu also sat down, he said slowly, General Kuyu, I heard Dong Fang Tang's words just now. Although I'm also very angry, we can't deal with things like you said. First of all, it's unsure whether we can even turn Luoyu into a bloodbath, but besides that our corporation was built for making money. Bathing Luoyu in blood will only make us a target for international persecution. It won't benefit us in any way. Edward looked at Dong Fang Tang and said again, we mercenaries live for one purpose only, money. None of our soldiers want to do something that won't bring any profit. Mr. Dong Fang, you come from China, and so does Luoyu. How do you think we should deal with matters? Dong Fang Tang didn't expect Edward would ask him, but he quickly said, although I like General Kuyu's idea, I believe that if we act like that, our corporation will be destroyed. If Luoyu was able to annihilate the Indonesian fleet with so many of our elites on it, then I don't think their military power is any less than ours. Thus, There's no benefit for us in solving things with fighting. Edward nodded. Yes, we lost very strangely. The news I received was that a few days before the battle, we managed to sink 3 of their patrol boats, yet on the 5th day of the battle, our fleet suddenly surrendered. The report I got was that they captured both General Louis and Commander David. These people then made everyone surrender. But I know things weren't as simple as that. You're saying? Kuyu knew it was impossible to solve things with war, but he was just angry. Edward said carefully, I don't think that Yi Mo is lying, he really does have the power to massacre us. Kuyu frowned. Edward, aren't you exaggerating things a bit too much out of anxiousness? He still believed that it was nothing but a joke that Luo Yu would be capable of eradicating them. Edward shook his head. No, I'm not being overly anxious at all. We're not far from the ocean, and we have neither navy nor air force. At most, we're a strong land force. Luo Ying managed to beat an entire fleet. No matter what means they used, that means that their naval power has to be rather strong. So, they could just barrage us with cannons and not care about the consequences. Kuyu sunk into silence. After hearing Edward and Dongfang Tang's words, he felt that things might really be as Yi Mo said. Isn't Yi Mo the president of Luo Yu? Kuyu suddenly asked. Dongfang Tang nodded. Yes, we've investigated him. He seems to be very famous among the Chinese higher-ups. I've also heard that Northern Sand had negotiations with him. I don't know why exactly, but even Northern Sand seemed to be concerned about him. What? Northern Sand feels concerned about Yi Mo? Kuyu was shocked and subconsciously looked at Edward. He knew that a mercenary corporation like his was nothing but an insect in front of Northern Sand. Edward nodded. That is the case. This Yi Mo isn't simple at all, and his origins are pretty odd. It seems he was just some young master in Beijing in the past. Of course for now, I don't think we need to keep investigating him. Since we know of his power, the first thing we need to do is to keep negotiating with him at Luo Yu. But he clearly doesn't want to negotiate with us, Kuyu said with frustration. Dongfang Tang shook his head. This Kuyu was a brainless idiot. He was a far cry from his father. In the past, under the lead of his father, Blue Ray Corporation had dominated wherever they went. If it wasn't for his dad dying in that mission in 2001, how would they ever be led by a brainless idiot like Kuyu? Not only was he impetuous, but he had even leaked secrets to women many times. Edward didn't mind Kuyu's reaction and continued, I believe the reason why Yi Mo didn't agree is because we didn't satisfy his needs. It's not as simple as getting our men back now. We need to think of how we can make him happy. Mr. Dongfang, what is it he wants? He wants us to admit that the real mastermind was Indonesia. Since I didn't, we couldn't continue our negotiations, Dongfang Tang replied. Edward said nonchalantly, there's nothing wrong with doing that, though. We're mercenaries, not assassins. So with our safety being at stake, we should negotiate with him again. Luo Yu apparently has strong naval power and is different from other countries, so perhaps we might even work together with them in the future. It's best to build up good relations with Yi Mo now. Why would he make us admit who the mastermind is? Shana asked subconsciously. Edward glanced at Shana and Kuyu. There was no reply, but as they looked at each other's faces, they realized the answer. Even Kuyu knew what was going on. In all likelihood, Luo Yu probably didn't even consider them a threat. They just wanted evidence. This evidence was necessary so they would be able to deal with Indonesia with reason on their side. If they admitted it, Luo Yu would have that evidence. They were even planning on getting revenge on the Indonesian Navy. How could they consider a small corporation like them a threat? This also meant that Yi Mo wasn't joking when he said he would turn their bay into a bloodbath. If they went to Luo Yu again, it would remain nothing but a threat, but if they didn't, it wouldn't stop at being a mere threat. Kuyu finally realized the severity of the matter and stood up, nodding, okay, in that case, let's go to Luo Yu as soon as we can. We'll go all together. Yi Mo was very happy at the moment. Not only had he recruited a lot of talented military personnel, Yixing had also designed their first automatic targeting radar system. It had been named by Yixing as the Space Shield Defense and Offense System. It could not only scan a 30 km area of sea and air, but was also capable of target locking and even automatic attacking. Each set of parts within the system could chase up to 50 targets at the same time, and multiple systems wouldn't overlap on targets. The radar could also detect any missiles within 3 kilometers. It might not be more advanced than the US's radars, but this was only the first-generation defense and attack system. As soon as the system is put into action, cover all of Luoyu with it immediately, Emo said. He knew from the moment that he moved there that he would have to fight the US. He couldn't do that without an advanced aerial defense system. As soon as the system is put into action, cover all of Luoyu with it immediately, Emo said. He knew from the moment that he moved there that he would have to fight the US. He couldn't do that without an advanced aerial defense system. The US intercontinental missiles could easily reach Luoyu and their accuracy was insane. Moreover, even if they didn't send missiles, they still had nuclear bombs. Luoyu was nothing but a weakling to them. Emo didn't know if his invisibility could go undetected from all radar systems. If it couldn't, then airstrikes would be a problem for him. Furthermore, although he could easily take down jets, he couldn't deal with such a large air force. If they ganged up against him and managed to drop a bomb onto Luoyu, he would suffer heavy losses. Although Emo had other means to get revenge on the US, Emo wanted to avoid suffering losses and then having to go annihilate his enemies. The system Yi Xing had designed combined defense and attack, and no one needed to operate it. This was one of Emo's ideals: attack is defense. Emo left Zhong Jiayan and Yi Xing behind to continue discussing the radar system, and he took Xu Yuhua to the guest hall again. As he expected, Blue Ray had sent 4 people to negotiate this time. Even the General Kuyu was there. Emo wasn't planning on ignoring them. He came as soon as he heard of it. He knew that this corporation meant no threat to him, but he still had to solve things. Mr. Yi, hello, I'm Edward, the advisor for Blue Ray Corporation. This is our General Kuyu. As soon as Emo entered the room, Edward immediately approached him hospitably to shake hands and introduce himself. Emo nodded and pointed at Xu Yuhua. She's the current person responsible for the city, Xu Yuhua. Please have a seat, everyone. Edward had heard from Dongfang Tang about how straightforward he was, so he said, I believe Mr. Yi and Ms. Xu already know why we're here. Please accept Blue Ray Corporation's deepest apology. We would like give you any compensation you consider necessary. Edward hadn't mentioned he wanted his men back at all he had said was that he would pay for a compensation. Instead of Yi Mo, it was Xu Yuhua who spoke. We don't need an apology, we just want to know why you attacked Luoyu. Edward said without hesitation, we're mercenaries, we would only do something that stupid because of the orders of the people who hired us. Ms. Xu, you must know we don't have fleets. Then, Edward continued without Xu Yuhua asking, we were hired by the Indonesian Navy. Their naval commander, Xiao Lucio, negotiated with us personally. They said they didn't have enough military power, so they hired us to attack Luoyu together. Oh, so that's it. General Kuyu, what is your verdict? Xu Yuhua looked at Kuyu. Kuyu was indeed impetuous, but it was already too late. His men had already admitted it, why would he deny it? He quickly replied, that's right, Commander Xiao Lucio found us and asked us to send men over. They offered us $300 million. Xu Yuhua smiled, in that case, sign here, just in case you change your mind. Xu Yuhua took out a document and put in front of Kuyu and Edward. Although they knew they were probably being recorded, they didn't dare not to sign. The 2 men looked at the document and smiled bitterly. It had already been printed, they had been waiting for their signature. Xu Yuhua put the document away and Emo stood up. He believed the negotiation was over. Edward smiled bitterly at Emo and also stood up. He finally said after some hesitation, Mr. Yi, some of our men are still. Emo smiled and waved his hand, even if you hadn't said anything, I was going to mention it. Your squadron's men liked Luoyu and decided to stay. They are working on building Luoyu right now. I was going to make you give some compensation, but seeing their passion for their work, I might as well satisfy their needs and let them stay. What do you think, Mr. Edward? Edward was full of bitterness. But after Yi Mo's expression sunk, he didn't dare complain. He was afraid of pissing Yimo off and in the end having to give him a compensation. Although the corporation had lost some elite members, it was a good thing that they hadn't gotten annihilated. As for getting the fleet back, like Indonesian officials had requested, Edward decided not to mention it. If he dared say that now, he would truly be done. Dongfang Tang, do you know someone called Dongfang Shi? Yimo suddenly asked. Dongfang Tang had been thinking about something else and wasn't very focused, but after Yimo asked, he was shook. He immediately calmed himself down and quickly said, I don't know. I don't know who Dongfang Shi is. Dongfang Tang's expression was uneasy, but Yimo still wasn't sure if they were related. He detested Dongfang Shi to the bones and he had the feeling that Dongfang Tang's reply wasn't truthful. However, he couldn't grasp where the problem was. Dongfang Tang lied, Xu Yuhua suddenly said after they left. How do you know? Yimo asked. Xu Yuhua said, Dongfang Tang is a mercenary, and what do mercenaries do? They either help other fight wars, or kill. They need to understand the international conflicts and also know about people in the same profession. Nanqing's boss, Qian Longtu, also had a few thousand mercenaries who took on jobs like the Blu-ray Corporation does. They are competition. Dongfang Shi is the head advisor of Qian Longtu and Dongfang Tang is clearly an advisor too in Blu-ray Corporation. How could he not know of Dongfang Shi's existence? He wasn't able to think clearly when he replied and he will realize the problem once he gets back. Yimo nodded. There definitely was something wrong, but now it wasn't the time to find him. Dongfang Tang wouldn't be able to escape from him. Since Blu-ray Corporation hadn't been able to take any of their men back, after these mercenaries found out they had been abandoned, they all decided to serve Luo Yu. But also Huang Yinian and Guiqi brought up their standards a lot. Nearly a month later, the Indonesians hadn't sent anyone over to negotiate yet. It seemed as though they hadn't even been involved in the attack. This made Yimo think something was off. After receiving news from Xu Yuhua's connections, he found out that there was an internal conflict going on in Indonesia. Some people were unhappy about the fact that they had attacked Luo Yu, which pleased Yimo. While everybody else was busy building Luo Yu, Yimo started cultivating and searching around for spirit herbs and special ores. He wanted to make a bigger storage ring and find a bunch of 100-year-old yellow essences. He was going to use them to make Qi-increasing pills. Thus, he had to leave Luo Yu. However, he would come back at most 2 days later as Luo Yu was still vulnerable. The reason why Yimo was going out in search of herbs and materials was because even though Luo Yu had published a list to the world, it hadn't been very effective. Some materials which he needed had been found, but not a single true spirit herb. The reason why Yimo was going out in search of herbs and materials was because even though Luo Yu had published a list to the world, it hadn't been very effective. Some materials which he needed had been found, but not a single true spirit herb. Yimo knew that spirit herbs usually grew in dangerous places and were hard to get. Spirit herbs also had the instinct to protect themselves like humans. They wouldn't grow in normal places, so Yimo could only try his luck himself. After Yimo left Luo Yu, he first went to Ningxi. Tang Beiwei was willing to move to Luo Yu now and would be helping Yimo manage the spirit herb garden he planned on growing. But the purple heart vine was at a critical stage of its growth, and it wasn't good to move it, so Tang Beiwei couldn't leave Ningxi just yet. Although he wanted to go see Ting Ting too, Yimo gave up on the thought upon remembering Yun Bing's affection for him. Yimo was scared that if he let something happen again, he really wouldn't be able to face Ning Qingxue and Luo Ying anymore. Yimo also wanted to go to America after he found some more herbs and was ready. His target was simple: acquiring weapons and information. Yimo wanted to take back all of America's most advanced blueprints and some prototypes of theirs. Another thing was that he wanted to go back to Chinatown and ask Peng Yueji and Shi Kaizhen whether they had found Sister Yang yet. And if there were people willing to go to Luo Yu with him, he would bring them back. He needed large numbers of people right now. Wuyang Town. This was the second time Yimo came to this town. The first time he hadn't even known the name of the town. After he and Ning Qingxue left Shennongjiu, they came here to buy some clothes before Yimo sent her back. The reason he had returned here was because he had found large amounts of herbs at the Chiu Tuo Peak. Yimo was low on herbs, so this place was his first choice. He was just passing by the town as it was the closest town to Shenongjiao, and he was also short on supplies, so he was going to buy some food for his storage ring. As Yimo walked up to a shop, he saw many people around it and a crying girl. Yimo sent his spirit sense in there subconsciously, and it tuned out he actually knew that girl and had seen her more than once. Although he had never talked to her, he knew that she was called Xiao Yu and that she was a nun from Lian Hangjing Temple. Luo Xian had said that her sect originated from their sect. He quickly figured out why the girl was crying. A nun laid next to her. It was the nun who had accompanied her to the auction, and she was dead now. She seemed to have been killed due to a fatal injury to her neck, as seen by the needle-sized wound on it. Yimo knew that this martial artist next to Xiao Yu had to have been at least at the peak of the yellow stage. Someone like her had been killed in an ordinary town? This was too suspicious. Move aside, don't ruin the crime scene. The police arrived and all the bystanders moved aside. Yimo shook his head and was about to leave when he heard Xiao Yu call out, "Yiqianbei." When the police arrived, everyone moved aside, and so Xiao Yu happened to see Yimo and called out to him. People around her started whispering amongst themselves, "This nun seems crazy. Qianbei, what era was this?" Yimo didn't mind. Although he had no connections with this Xiao Yu, but she was an ancient martial arts cultivator and since she had recognized him, he might as well help her. What happened? Yimo walked in and asked. Since she had realized that it wasn't too appropriate to call Yimo Qianbei here, Xiao Yu rubbed her sore eyes and said, "Brother Yi, my martial sister was killed. I know the police wouldn't be able to catch the culprit." Yimo thought this little nun was really straightforward, saying that the police wouldn't be able to catch the culprit in front of their face. Although Yimo knew she was telling the truth, she was too inexperienced in this society. As soon as Xiao Yu said that, the police at the scene became unhappy. Xiao Yu was the victim's family so they couldn't reproach her but they immediately grew unhappy with Yimo this outsider. A middle-billed police stopped Yimo and said, "Go out first, this is a crime scene, do not destroy it." Xiao Yu stood up and rubbed her eyes before telling that police, "That you all but I know you wouldn't be able to get the culprit, he's very strong. Little girl, we understand your feelings right now but please don't ruin the crime scene. And, you, what's your name? Show me your ID." A young police said unhappily. They didn't want to be too mean since Xiao Yu was the victim and was an innocent and pretty-looking nun. Xiao Yu said desperately, "I'm Yang Yu, brother Yi, please help me." She knew that Yimo's status was very high, even higher than her master's. Yimo sighed. If he let Yang Yu continue like this, the scene would only get worse. So he could only take out the ID Han Zixin had given him and said to the police, "This is not an ordinary case, leave it to me. You guys can go back now." "Leave it to you?" A policeman of average build wanted to rage away immediately but was stopped by a middle-aged police officer. He took Yimo's document, looked at it and then gave it back to Yimo carefully. "Yes, Instructor Yi." Then, he waved his hand, "Retreat." Despite the others not knowing what was going on, the captain had said to retreat, so no one dared to ask a thing. Yimo picked up the nun and left the scene under the public's shocked gazes. Then he asked, "What's going on?" "Your martial sister was already a yellow peak cultivator, how could she have gotten killed? Also, what are you doing at Shenongjiao?" Yang Yu sniffed. 2 months ago, our sect was suddenly attacked. The attacker was cruel and killed many of my martial uncles and sect members and even our sect leader before leaving. My master was wearing soft armor and was able to survive. She was just heavily injured. Martial sister Mai and I came to Shenongjiao to pick the tiandan flower. Wait, Dishimo stopped her. "The tiandan flower you're talking about, is it a plant that has 3 flowers and each flower has a different color?" "Yes," Yang Yu replied. "That means you have found it." Yimo couldn't help his tone from getting excited. Yang Yu didn't mind Yimo's tone and nodded. "We found it and after we picked it, it was already dark, so we stayed in town for the night, planning to go back this morning. But Yimo understood. Someone who wanted the flower had killed the martial sister. The tiandan flower could cure extremely serious internal injuries and was one of the 3 main ingredients for the Kai increasing pill. It was a low-level spirit herb. It was fine if the person just took the flower, but taking the flower and killing the owner, this was too over the line. Why was your sect attacked? And since it was such a complete attack, how come you and your sister were fine? Yimo asked. My martial sister, a few martial uncles, and I went to the hidden sects tournament. By the time we came back, it had already happened, Yang Yu said. My martial sister, a few martial uncles, and I went to the hidden sects tournament. By the time we came back, it had already happened, Yang Yu said. Yimo asked in shock, you're saying your sect was annihilated? Yang Yu shook her head, not entirely, as there was only one enemy that night. When he came, though, those who fought him all died. Only my master lived and the remaining low-powered members who couldn't even face the enemy. Yimo immediately understood. He nodded and asked again, so that means, those who saw the enemy's face were all killed, right? Yang Yu nodded and started crying on her martial sister's body again. Yimo figured that the enemy hadn't been planning on annihilating the sect. If he had, those weaker sect members would have been killed too. It might be someone the sect knew personally, or maybe he was afraid of other people knowing his identity. How strong was that attacker? Yimo really wanted to know who had such courage. Their sect wasn't weak, yet it had been practically annihilated by a single person. Yang Yu wiped her eyes and sniffed. My two martial uncles were Earth-level primary stage. My master and the sect leader were Earth-level middle stage, and there were 4 Black-level martial uncles. Yimo was shocked. Such an ensemble attacking one person, yet they all died. This enemy was too strong. Thinking among the people Yimo knew, someone as strong as that was at least at Wang Lenshan's level. Other than him, there were Feng Wu, Wu Dao, Xiong Mingwang, and that sect leader of Juming Academy. But Xiong Mingwang was dead. Wu Dao seemed very benevolent and wouldn't do such a thing. The only possibilities were Feng Wu and that Juming Academy sect leader. But why would they do such a thing? Did your master see who it was? Yimo asked again. Yang Yu shook her head. No, she had her face covered. My master only knows that it was a woman and that she was a half-step Great Heaven Master. Yang Yu immediately removed Juming Academy's sect leader from his suspect list. Yimo didn't expect there to be such a strong woman in the world. Did you see the person who attacked your martial sister Mai? Yimo asked. Yang Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, when I came out of Shennong with my martial sister yesterday, it was already dark. But as we went into the hotel, I turned around and saw a grey-clothed person standing not far from us under the streetlights. When I wanted to take a better look, the person had already disappeared. I don't know if that wasn't him. Grey-clothed person? Not good. Yimo realized that the hotel would of course have security cameras, but he hadn't cared a bit before, so he didn't think of checking the recordings. What's wrong? Yang Yu asked immediately. I think we should go back and check the footage to see who it was. Yimo voiced his idea. Yang Yu was dazed. Yeah, her martial sister had been killed in that hotel. How could they not check the surveillance footage? Bury your martial sister first. Yimo pointed at the foot of a mountain not far away. Yang Yu was completely muddlehead right now and just did as Yimo told her. Yimo took out a thin needle from the martial sister's neck and then helped Yang Yu bury her. Then, he took her back to the town. Meanwhile, the owner of the hotel was scared. A customer had died in his place. He had the highest probability of being held responsible somehow, but the family of the victim didn't look for trouble that much. This made him breathe easy, but before he could finish his sigh of relief, someone else came. A male relative this time. Seeing the hotel owner's fright, Yang Yu didn't have the mood to ask questions. She saw it couldn't have had anything to do with the hotel owner. Please show me your surveillance recording, Yimo asked. Soon, it was replayed, and luckily, it wasn't destroyed. There were no cameras inside the rooms, only cameras at the front and back of the building. The time was shown clearly, and in the very early morning, a grey-clothed man had indeed been circulating outside the hotel. The man hadn't covered his face, so from the recording, Yimo could see the man had a long face and had to be in his 40s to 50s. When he left, he was carrying a blue bag on him. Yang Yu recognized the bag. It was the bag her martial sister had used to put the tiandan flower in. She started crying again. Yimo hurried away from the town. He knew that this man wasn't a part of modern society, or he would have tried to delete the footage. The guy probably came from the hidden sects too, or lived at a place somewhere away from society. Are there any of these flowers left where you found them? Yimo asked. Yang Yu shook her head. No, but there are many other herbs. We were planning to go back after our master had recovered. I want to pick some herbs. Can you take me there? After I find them, I will try to come back and save your master, Yimo said awkwardly. His main goal now wasn't to get revenge for Xiao Yu's martial sister. He knew that it wasn't easy. Who could guess where that guy had gone? He had only looked at the footage in order to remember the person's face, just in case he could kill him if he saw him. Luckily, Yang Yu understood that it was impossible for Yimo to find the culprit now. She didn't complain and just said, I'll take you there. All I'm asking is for you to save my master. As though he realized he had overdone it, Yimo asked casually, Xiao Yu, you said your sect was almost annihilated by a woman. Do you know why she caused a carnage at your sect? Yang Yu shook her head. I don't know, we didn't lose anything from our sect. However, our library was a mess. Perhaps she was trying to find a book or some sort of cultivation method. Yimo was sure that she wasn't trying to find ancient martial arts cultivation methods. She was already at halfway Great Heaven stage. Her cultivation method must be top-notch. How could she be interested in their cultivation method? After they walked together for a while, Yang Yu felt a little better. She had been lucky to meet Yimo. Although she was taking Yimo to pick herbs, she trusted that he would keep his word and treat her master afterwards. Yang Yu was a yellow-level primary stage martial artist after all, so she could walk very fast. It only took her half a day to take Yimo there. The place was similar to where Yimo had found the face-preserving fruit. It was a very steep cliff. Yang Yu explained that her martial sister and she had found the herb in the middle of the cliff. Since it was too high, they had had to use ropes, but after her martial sister died, the ropes were gone. Isn't this a piece of a long rope? Yimo had just gotten there when he saw a custom-made rope. It was like the ones martial artists used when he first came to Shunnong-jiao. This is my martial sister's rope. Why would it be here? Yang Yu ran to him to touch the rope. She was about to cry again. Yimo analyzed the situation and scanned his spirit sense down. He was at stage 5 now and his spirit sense could reach almost 800 meters. There was a place very different to its surroundings in the middle of the cliff. It was lush and green, much better than the barren land around it. Just when Yimo was about to mention it, he saw the grey-clothed man with a bag of herbs carefully picking them out. Yimo sneered and he thought, so you came to me on your own. Xiao Yu, have you thought about why the rope could be here? Yimo suddenly asked. Yang Yu subconsciously nodded her head. That man is coming up. Yimo saw the man crawl up the rope. He was very fast. Huh! Yang Yu stood up worriedly, but she soon calmed down. She had witnessed Yimo's power with her own eyes. It should be no problem for him to beat the person who killed her martial sister. That grey-clothed man's herb basket was full. He seemed to have picked quite a lot. When the man jumped on top of the cliff, he found Yimo and Yang Yu staring at him. He was shaken but reacted rapidly and took out a long sword. Why did you kill my martial sister? Yang Yu's eyes were red. She wanted to kill this person, but she knew she was no match for him. Little girl, I had mercy on you and let you go, yet you dared come back here. Don't blame me, you're seeking death yourself. The man smiled viciously and glanced at Yimo. He thought that Yimo was probably some help the little nun had called for. Yimo glanced at the herb basket. It was actually full of precious herbs. He scanned the platform at the cliff, and it seemed most of the good herbs had already been picked by this guy. It seemed he was quite skilled in medicine. The guy was only at the black-level tertiary stage, but his skin was quite pale. Perhaps due to long periods of staying in darkness. It seemed he was preparing to reach the earth level. The tiandan flower is a good thing, everyone wants it. But since you were able to take it anyway, why kill? Yimo shook his head. Who are you? What's that got to do with you, her? The man shouted. He wasn't sure about Yimo's identity yet, but he wasn't afraid of him. Yimo was young. No matter how strong he was only in his 20s, what could he do? What he was afraid of was that there might be other people nearby. So as he spoke, he scanned around with his eyes. Yimo knew what the guy was thinking and sneered, "No need to look around, there's no one else here. I don't need people to help me with some black-level trash like you. You can see my power level. Who are you?" The grey-robed man became hesitant to attack now. Yimo slowly walked up to the man, not minding the long sword at all. Yang Yu wanted the guy dead, but seeing Yimo walk towards him without a weapon, she began to worry. Seeing this, the man rejoiced, "No matter how strong you are, if I suddenly swing, how are you going to dodge?" When Yimo was only 2 meters from the man, he suddenly took a step forward as his long sword turned into a ray, slicing at Yimo's waist with lightning-fast speed. Yang Yu subconsciously covered her eyes. She knew that Yimo wouldn't be killed like that, but she was still scared. Yimo saw this and quickly reached out his hand. Before the sword ray reached him, he took the sword from the man, and the sword ray suddenly changed positions. By the time the grey-clothed man could react, he found that his sword had appeared in Yimo's hand, and he felt pain from his body. Slump the man fell to the ground as he howled in pain. His legs had been cleanly sliced off. "You." The man stared at Yimo in horror. He had never met a master like Yimo. He had always thought himself as part of the strongest group of people on earth, yet he hadn't even been able to last a breath in front of Yimo. Yimo reached out and took over the herb basket. He looked around and saw that there was a tiandan flower indeed. He rejoiced. Once he made an essence-increasing pill, he would be able to reach the Kai-gathering tertiary stage. There was only a one-word difference between essence-increasing pill and Kai-increasing pill, but their difference in potency was truly undeniable. One was for reaching the Kai-gathering primary stage, while the other was for the Kai-gathering middle and even tertiary stages. Yimo looked at the dumbfounded Yang Yu and called out, "This person killed your martial sister, aren't you going to get revenge? What are you standing there for? You just need to kick him off the cliff." Yang Yu reacted, and her eyes became firm, but before she walked up to him, the man called out, "Don't kill me, I have a lot of ancient martial arts treasures. If you let me go, they're all yours." "Oh, where do you keep your things then?" Yimo suddenly asked. The man actually didn't consider how to use it in exchange for his life and subconsciously replied, "At Nanlu Peak." Yimo stopped the man's words and sighed, "I think you've been a primitive man of Shunnong Jiao for too long. In that case, you can die. Yang Yu, hurry up and kick him off." The man really didn't know how to interact with people. Yimo wouldn't care about his threats anyway, but from this one could really see how low this man's EQ was. Hearing Yimo's words, Yang Yu went up and sent out a kick. The man cried out and fell off the cliff. "Wait for me here. I'll be going down to see if there are any other herbs." Then, Yimo went down the rope and landed on the platform. After landing, Yimo assorted the herbs in the basket and put them in his ring. Then, he collected all the remaining useful herbs into his ring as well. 2 hours later, even Yimo felt like he had harvested quite a lot. Good people got good fortune indeed. If he hadn't helped that nun, he wouldn't have gotten this many herbs. At the same time, Yimo was also suspicious about why so many herbs would be gathered in areas of Shunnong Jiao. He wondered whether they hadn't perhaps been grown by people a very long time ago. After all, in the cultivation realm, it was normal to find herb gardens left behind by Chanbayas. Although Yimo wanted to go check out the other peaks and that Nanlu Peak, he knew that Yang Yu was worried for her master. Just as Yang Yu was getting desperate, Yimo came back. "Brother Yi, no, Yi Qianbei, may I ask when we will go back to treat my master's wounds?" Yang Yu was scared of Yimo, but this concerned her master's health. "Where is your sect?" Yimo asked. "At Wuyi Mountain's hidden Tone Valley," Yang Yu said. Yimo had heard of Wuyi Mountain before. In fact, he had gone there once to search for Luo Ying, but it wasn't close to where they were at all. Yimo didn't have the time to take a plane with Yang Yu. Yang Yu understood that as well and thought that Yimo might not want to go because it was too far, so she immediately said, "Yi Qianbei, it's actually not that far by plane, we can dash." Yimo waved to stop her from talking. "I didn't say it's far or anything." Before he finished explaining, he knocked her out from an angle she couldn't see. It would be too troublesome to go by plane, so he might as well fly over on his flying sword. After that, Yimo took the rope and carried Yang Yu onto the flying sword. Tens of minutes later, Yimo appeared at Wuyi Mountain. He found a quiet place and dropped Yang Yu. Then, he started making pills. He was sure that with his means, Yang Yu would keep sleeping for a while. That was a good thing for her. Her sect had almost been annihilated, and her martial sister was killed. It wouldn't be good to stay emotionally tense like that. Almost 10 hours later, Yimo had finished making 2 cauldrons of lotus life pills as well as some normal pills. Yang Yu opened her eyes and just assumed that she had fallen asleep. She was shook and quickly crawled up. "You're awake. Let's go see your sect." Yimo walked over to her. We're already at Wuyi Mountain?" Yang Yu looked at the surroundings and suddenly realized. How could she wake up in Wuyi Mountain? We're already at Wuyi Mountain? Yang Yu looked at the surroundings and suddenly realized. How could she wake up in Wuyi Mountain? Although she had too many questions to ask, she knew that even if she asked, Yimo probably wouldn't answer her. It was strange that she suddenly fell asleep last night too. Although she wasn't experienced in this world, she knew some people had special powers, and they didn't like others asking them everything about it. So when Yang Yu woke up, she didn't ask anything. She just thanked Yimo and took him to Yinyun Valley. The valley was very far off. Yimo was sure that he wouldn't have been able to find it if Yang Yu wasn't showing the way. The two walked for a long time across Wuyi Mountain and finally Yang Yu took Yimo into a place covered in mist. As Yimo arrived at Lianhang Jingzhai, he felt that this place was worse off than Serenity's. This sect was much more famous than Serenity, but their territory was too bad. Yimo looked around. The place looked tattered indeed, and there were few sect members. It could be seen that the incident 2 months ago had had a great impact on the sect. Yang Yu's master was an old woman in her 60s. She laid on a bed looking old and fatigued. After hearing that martial sister Mai had died, she didn't say anything, but her sadness was evident on her face. "Master, this is Yi Qianbei. I invited him here to treat you." Yang Yu carefully wiped the old nun's eyes and explained. "Yimo." It was actually Yimo. Some rays of hope appeared in the master's eyes. Although she strugglingly tried to sit up by herself, her physical state didn't allow her to. Yang Yu quickly helped her up. She had heard of Yimo's name. To the people of the outer hidden sects, he was an infamous existence. "Young hero Yi, Xiao Yu is immature and actually annoyed you to come here, my apologies." The old nun was different from Yang Yu. She had actually dared invite Yimo to come treat her condition. If someone like Yimo got angry, he could easily annihilate their sect. She didn't want to mess with someone like Yimo. After all, they were a far cry from the big six among the outer hidden sects. Yimo was speechless. Yimo had been in the city for too long and now felt quite unfamiliar with names like Young Hero and Qianbei. Yimo could tell that this old nun was wary of him. At the same time, his spirit sense noticed that the nun was very seriously injured. If he didn't use a lotus life pill, it would cost large amounts of Kai to cure her. Yimo didn't like troublesome things, and besides, he had gotten so many herbs thanks to Yang Yu, he might as well give her a lotus life pill. "I don't dare take the name of Young Hero, and it sounds a bit strange too. If you approve of me, then just call me Yimo." Yimo waved his hand. The elder persisted, "You mustn't say that, Young Hero Yi. My Buddhist name is Qing Yang. Martial sister Qing Hui, hurry up and greet Young Hero Yi." Yimo knew that in Qing Yang's mind he was someone who took care of things with only force, so he shut his mouth and didn't bother explaining. The reason she was like this was not because she was afraid of him, but because she was afraid that he would cause trouble in their sect. She was probably blaming Yang Yu for being immature, daring to take back someone like Yimo. Yimo sighed. He knew that the longer he stayed there, the more uneasy they would be. He looked at Yang Yu, who was at a loss, and said, "I came because Xiao Yu also helped me with something. So I'm simply helping with treating Qing Yang's wound in return, nothing else. Young Hero Yi, I know my wounds, and I know there's no hope of curing them. But Xiao Yu and Xiao Mai insisted on finding the Tiandan flower to cure me, but even that wouldn't fully cure me either. Young hero Yi is destined to do big things. On account of your relations with Xiao Yu, please help look after our sect instead, Qingyang said. Yi Mo was speechless. Was his name that bad within these hidden sects? He could tell that the nun didn't really mean for him to take care of their sect. What she really meant was, since you're someone who will do big things, all will be good as long as you don't look for trouble with our mere small sect. Am I some big bad wolf? Though it wasn't like he had to care with this nun who was about to die. Yang Yu was also getting uneasy. She wasn't an idiot. Her master and her martial uncle's expressions meant that she shouldn't have brought Yi Mo here. Yi Mo didn't want to say anything anymore and so just took out a lotus life pill, and said to Xiao Yu, this pill should be enough to cure your master. Give it to her. Young hero Yi-Qing-Yang didn't want to owe Yi Mo even if it meant her condition not improving. But before she could finish, Yi Mo stopped her. Half of your meridians are broken and your dantian has signs of cracking too. If not me, then no one will be able to save your life. Hearing this, Qing-Yang forced down her words in shock. Yi Mo hadn't even touched her, yet he knew how heavily injured she was. And then he had still dared to say he could cure her. This was too magical. What immortal pill was this pill of his, anyway? Yang Yu was worried about her master and quickly put the pill in her master's mouth. Qing-Yang felt the pill immediately melt in her mouth and get absorbed by her body. Right away, she started to feel a certain cool sensation as her broken meridians started to heal. Even while she was still in shock, Yi Mo said, Qing-Yang, perform some meridian cycles now, and I believe you will be able to recover up to 80% within the hour. Qing-Yang did as told by Yi Mo. Half an hour later, even Yang Yu noticed how her master had recovered greatly. 1 hour later, Qing-Yang let out a breath of relief. She had thought she was dead for sure, yet in this legendary Yi Mo's hands, she recovered in but an hour. All she needed now was a couple days of rest. Qing-Yang was shocked. Yi Mo was a mighty killer but also a mighty savior. She owed Yi Mo now and quickly said, Thank you, young hero Yi, you saved my life. It was my mistake to have prejudice against you. Yang Yu and Qing Hui also went up to thank Yi Mo. Yi Mo waved his hand, since Qing-Yang is fine now, I need to go. We'll meet again if fate brings us together. Seeing Yi Mo about to leave, Qing-Yang and Qing Hui felt embarrassed. They had both been very vigilant against Yi Mo, but he had really just come to help. Young hero Yi, if you don't mind, please leave after lunch. We're really thankful for your help but have nothing valuable and are about to move away. It will be hard for us to thank you in the future, Qing Hui said. Yi Mo smiled, I came because I got Yang Yu's Tian Dang flower. I don't care about payment. But this place looks pretty nice and hidden, why would you be moving away? Sai, we were almost annihilated 2 months ago and that time, my disciple also got killed. I don't think this place is suitable for us anymore, Qing-Yang sighed. Yi Mo thought, my Luo Yu city needs large amounts of people living there anyhow. Wouldn't Qing-Yang be interested in bringing her sect there? However, Yi Mo didn't know how to invite them. If these scared nuns thought he was scheming for something, that wouldn't be good. Considering this, he casually asked, who did you offend 2 months ago for such a calamity to have been brought upon you? Chapter 540, One Leaf One World. Chapter 540, One Leaf One World. Qing-Yang sighed, we don't know either. Ever since our sect was formed, we only ever minded our own business and were always respectful to everyone. We never offended anyone, yet that night, a woman came to our sect and suddenly killed a martial sister in the library without saying anything. And then, she went on to kill many, many more. She was so cruel. This nun seemed very timid, so Yi Mo asked, do you know if any important sutra was taken away? Qing-Yang shook her head, no, we didn't lose any cultivation methods, but we did lose the couple of Tao De Sutra volumes we had in the library. The Tao De Sutra? Yi Mo's face changed. He was more than familiar with that book. At the Hua family, he had gone with Luo Xian to look for the Ni Luo Sutra, and it was hidden inside the Tao De Sutra. Had that woman come for the Ni Luo Sutra? He had also found that gold leaf inside but up till now hadn't been able to find out anything about it. What's wrong, young hero Yi? Qing-Yang looked strangely at Yi Mo. His reaction didn't seem too normal, did it? Oh, nothing. I was just wondering why that person would want the Tao De Sutra volumes. Are they important heritage items of your sect? Yimo quickly asked. Heritage items? Qing Yang shook her head in a bitter smile. As though deciding that there was nothing to hide anymore, she paused for a moment before saying, "We only have a heritage left behind by our first ancestor, but after a couple hundred of years, we don't even know whether it's real or fake. We've just been passing it down, but those couple of Tao De Sutra volumes aren't part of our heritage items." Master, what is our heritage then? A young nun asked the question Yimo couldn't really ask. Qing Yang sighed and replied, "It's just one sentence. One leaf, one world, 3,000 leaves. We still don't know what it means even now." Their heritage item was just a sentence. Not only was Yimo surprised, but so were the other sect members. Yimo had only ever heard of one flower, one world, one leaf, one tree. He had never heard of that one leaf, one world stuff. Also, one leaf, one world, 3,000 leaves was a self-contradicting sentence. When the ancestor passed it down, she said that if a disciple ever understood what it meant, that would be the time our sect really reformed. But no one has been able to figure out what it means. Qing Yang shook her head and sighed. Yimo knew it was time for him to go, so he got up. "Qing Yang, if your sect isn't able to find a good place, I have a good suggestion. Luo Yu Corporation is in fact my company. I believe many of you know about it, and it has been moved to Luo Yu City now. Luo Yu City's land is vast and has good mountains as well as lush green forests. If you don't mind, you can settle at Luo Yu City." "Luo Yu City? I know," a nun immediately said. Liang Hangjing Temple needed to find a new place to move to, so the members had been out and about a lot recently. Qing Yang had also heard of it, but she wouldn't have guessed Yimo would invite them to go there. This was a good opportunity. Luo Yu was bordered by sea on 3 sides. It was a great place to live a hidden life. If you wish to go, you might as well contact Guanghan's sect, because they will be moving to our city soon as well. Yimo said this fearing that these nuns might still have some concerns. Yimo quite welcomed these hidden sects as long as they didn't promote some evil occult practices. Qing Yang was obviously surprised about that fact. Yimo gave them Han Yang's contact details and left the sect, but he knew that Qing Yang was interested. Yimo went to Shen Jiao again. He still needed some supplementary materials for the Essence Kai pill. Yimo was also thinking about the Tao De Sutra. He already had the 2 golden leaves from the Ni Luo Sutra, so why would someone still be looking for the Tao De Sutra? Not every Tao De Sutra would have such a golden leaf. One leaf, one world, 3,000 leaves. Yimo kept muttering these words. He soon realized that he was back at Wu Liang Mountain, though. He had been thinking about it so much that he didn't realize the passage of time. Now that he was there, he needed to focus on looking for herbs. The supplementary materials for the Essence Kai pill didn't necessarily need to be spirit herbs. Some normal herbs would do the job too. Of course, the older they were, the better. The ones sold in shops had either been planted by humans or had lost the spiritual aspect of them. They were no different than grass to him. Hence, Yimo needed to find herbs in the wild on his own. Finally, he had gathered most of the materials and just needed to find a Lan Su. Lan Su grew in bleak places. Its body was blue, and it had no flowers. Its leaf was sharp like a blade, and it carried a faint aroma. The oldest ones could grow up to 20 years old. All this time, Yimo had been looking for herbs while going towards Nanlu Peak. Although he wasn't too interested in the treasure of that guy from the other day, he might as well go check it out. Who knows if he wouldn't have some surprising findings. Shenong Jiao was a good place indeed. Yimo had found tens of types of good herbs, and some were very old. However, there were no spirit herbs. Nanlu Peak and Chiu Tuo Peak were both rather steep. It would be almost impossible for other people to find the cave in the middle of the cliff, but for Yimo it was very easy. He only had to go on his flying sword and search for less than half an hour to find the hidden cave. It seemed like that was the place where the grey-clothed man had hidden his treasure and where he had usually cultivated. Yimo was about to enter the cave when he heard a sudden cry. Yimo stopped at the cliff and looked in the direction of the cry. It had come from outside the range of his spirit sense, and his view was blocked by trees, so he couldn't see the origin of that sound. He had found the cave already, so there was no rush to go in. He would go take a look what was happening first. Yimo jumped onto his flying sword and headed in the direction of the cry. There in the forest, a man laid on the ground. He had lost his arms, and the ground was covered in blood with a few pistols laying around. Yimo scanned the place with his spirit sense and found that the pistols were all out of bullets. The man was long dead, but he was probably the one who had made the cry. Soon, he found another man laying in the bushes. That man was also dead. They had probably killed each other. Just as Yimo was prepared to continue searching elsewhere, he heard the sound of weapons clashing. It was outside his spirit sense range again. This time though, Yimo flew over immediately and landed next to a fight with a couple of people involved. Chapter 541 – Important Information. Chapter 541 – Important Information. There were 3 people fighting. Yimo didn't know any of them. Although they were all ancient martial artists, they were really weak. The highest-leveled fighter among them was at the yellow-level primary stage. The other 2 were a man and a woman. The man was at most barely at the yellow level. The woman wasn't even at a proper ancient martial arts level. Those 2 fought against that yellow-level primary stage fighter. The 3 were all covered in injuries. The reason those 2 could fight with the yellow-level primary stage martial artist was because he was more injured. Despite that, they were still on the losing side. Yimo walked over. The 3 saw Yimo as he suddenly appeared and all stopped fighting and looked at Yimo. They were all injured, and now that Yimo just came waltzing over, in the middle of nowhere in Shenongjio, there was no way they wouldn't feel threatened by Yimo. No ordinary person dared venture here. Plus, this young man didn't even have a speck of grass on him. "Who are you?" "We are resolving private matters. Please don't intervene," the yellow-level primary stage man said. Yimo wasn't interested in who was right or wrong. He was interested in what they were fighting for. It was very easy to think of spirit items in the area of Shenongjio. If it was something that could be of interest to him, he wouldn't mind interfering. Yimo wasn't leaving, and so the 3 just stood there. No one wanted to attack first and let Yimo reap all the benefits in the end. Seeing this, Yimo asked, "I don't care about your private matters. Why are the 3 of you fighting, though? Did you find something good here in Shenongjio?" The 3 heard Yimo's words and knew he wanted to watch them fight it out and reap all the benefits afterwards. They immediately felt contempt towards Yimo. The yellow-level primary stage man saluted with his fist and said, "Friend, we're not fighting for something we found here. It's because these 2 are going against everyone's interests that I must capture them. This is a gang matter. Gang fights." Yimo immediately lost his interest and waved his hand, clearly about to leave. "Please wait a moment," the woman suddenly called out. Seeing this, the yellow-level primary stage guy immediately tensed up. He feared that Yimo would stay and help them attack him. If Yimo was an ordinary person, it wouldn't matter, but if Yimo was an ancient martial artist, things would get troublesome. Even he didn't really believe Yimo would be an ordinary person, however. What is it? If this woman was going to ask for his help with some gang affairs, he would leave without hesitation. The woman didn't seem to see Yimo's impatient face and took out a bag from her waist, throwing it at Yimo. "This is a new element I discovered, Chong 265. It has strong nuclear fission capabilities. It can definitely be used for nuclear bombs, but for now my information is still incomplete. If you give it to the Chinese government, they will give you a large sum of reward money for sure. Lu Na, how dare you give this to some random stranger?" That yellow-level primary stage fighter's face changed drastically as he witnessed this. He then looked at Yimo and said, "Friend, please give me this thing, it belongs to our organization. If you take it, it will be a disaster for your family." A new element for making nuclear bombs? Yimo was shocked. What gang was this powerful? Even all the countries together had only discovered uranium and plutonium to make nuclear bombs with. This organization was actually able to discover a new one. Seeing how Yimo didn't say anything, the yellow-level primary stage man got more and more worried. He tried to persuade Yimo again. Friend, what is in your hand is the result of many years of work by tens of scientists. If you give it back to me, I will definitely give you a satisfying price for it. Li Dai, you're so shameless. This is the research result of my teacher and his colleague. How dare you say you want it back as if you invented it? Bullsh *T. Lu Na cursed. Yimo looked at Li Dai and suddenly asked, which organization are you from? How come you have the power to research such things? Li Dai knew that if he didn't name his organization, this young man wouldn't give a *T about him, so he said, I'm Li Dai, and my organization is called Northern Sand. These two are traitors of Northern Sand. Please don't intervene in our matters, friend. We will pay you back for this. Northern Sand again? Yimo shook his head. Although Northern Sand was powerful and full of resources, wasn't this organization's management a bit too chaotic? There were always people running away left and right. Even if he didn't do anything, this organization wouldn't last long. A truly good organization wouldn't have people deserting it all the time, high-level personnel at that. Friend Li Dai still wanted to say something. Yimo stopped him and said, no need for your bulka *P. If you were from some other gang I wouldn't care, but you're actually from Northern Sand. I happen to have some small conflicts with Northern Sand, and this thing happens to be of some use to me too. Hearing this, Li Dai was shook. Who are you? Why are you going against us? I'm Yimo. I believe you wouldn't be unfamiliar with my name being from Northern Sand, right? Yimo smiled. You're Yimo? The three cried out in shock almost at the same time. Yimo's name was too big in Northern Sand. He had used an extreme energy stone to get $10 billion, yet that energy stone had disappeared and Northern Sand had then lost another one as well. Li Dai woke up. Although he hadn't seen Yimo, he knew clearly about how Yimo had killed 27 of their elites and 4 black levels in Luokang. Chen Zui and Peter had been there at the time as well, but even they hadn't been able to stop him. Then he moved his corporation to Psi-Na and changed its name to Luoyu, declaring independence. Who wouldn't know about him? Li Dai took a step back subconsciously. He didn't dare ask for anything from Yimo at all. You're Yimo? Yimo from Luoyu City? Lu Na asked in excitement. Yimo looked at her in confusion and nodded. Yes, I am. Yi Qianbei, I apologize for being rude before. I will leave now. Li Dai wanted to run. He didn't dare try to capture people in front of Yimo. As for the bag in Yimo's hands, it was out of his capabilities to take it. First and foremost, he had to report back. Yi Qianbei, you can't spare him. He knows the information is in your hands, and he will report back to Northern Sand, the other man suddenly said. I won't dash before Li Dai could finish talking, a wind blade was flying over already. Chapter 542, 3000 Worlds, 3000 Dao. Chapter 542, 3000 Worlds, 3000 Dao. Thank you for saving us, Brother Yi. My boyfriend and I appreciate it greatly, Lu Na said as she saw Yimo kill Li Dai. So why did Northern Sand start hunting the two of you? Yimo studied the two and asked. Lu Na rubbed her eyes. My sister Lu Lin and I were working for Northern Sand when suddenly, they wanted my sister to be the scapegoat for someone else, and she was taken away. It's unlikely that she's still alive. What a catastrophe. My sister did so many things for Northern Sand yet had to take the blame for someone else. I wanted to get revenge, but since I didn't have the ability to, we ran away from Northern Sand. Lu Lin. Yimo suddenly thought of the woman called Sister Ling. Could it be her? If it was, then Yimo could partially be blamed for her death. Yimo studied Lu Na and found that she actually looked like Lu Lin. To be fair, Yimo wasn't guilty at all. Everyone had simply acted out of their own interest. Yimo raised the bag with the element. This is your newly discovered element, Chong 265. Lu Na shook her head and said, I was just an assistant. The main researchers were my teacher and 2 other chemistry professors. 2 months ago, the research was pretty much over, and my teacher fell ill due to overworking himself, and the 2 other chemistry professors went to the US and by Lindsay respectively. That's when I found an opportunity to escape. What is the professor at the Bai Lin Sea doing there? Yimo wondered and asked. Lu Na didn't mind Yimo's question and replied casually, I heard people say that Northern Sand's biggest base and research lab are somewhere in the Bai Lin Sea. That base also seems to be called Yang Wn Base. Yimo rejoiced, this was good news for him. He had been planning to go find the Black Sun Empire when Luoyu City was stabilized, but he didn't expect some Yang Wn base would also be there. Chong, ha. This name is good, I truly hope it's Chong, strong, indeed. Yimo looked at the bag and said. Since cultivation alone wasn't enough to destroy a country, he would use both technology and cultivation. Hearing this, Lu Na suddenly said, my teacher named it that way. If he hadn't died, he might have received the Nobel Prize for Chemistry for this fission element. As Yimo heard Lu Na's sorrow, he was sent into a daze. He felt as if he was very close to grasping something. Suddenly, the word fission flashed across his mind, and he thought of one leaf, 3,000 leaves. He had gotten 2 pages of gold paper. If the word leaf was changed a bit, the sentence would be 1 page, 1 world. Leaf and page in Chinese were homonyms. Could it be that the Lianhang Jing sect had passed down 1 page, 1 world, but because so much time had passed, the inheritance was wrong? Or perhaps that ancestor had been wrong? Buddhists also like to use flowers, grass, and things like that to represent sophisticated things all the time. He had just never heard of pages being represented by something. Yimo felt his guess was right. If he was right, then his 2 gold pages represented 2 worlds. So 2 pages, 2 worlds. But the numbers of Dao were either 3 or multiples thereof, like 6 or 9. So that meant that he couldn't see the full secret of the gold pages because the set was still incomplete. There was probably a 3rd page left. Yimo was shocked. If his conjecture was right, then the woman who went to Lianhang Jing sect must have taken the middle one out of the 3 pages. If he was right, then wouldn't these pages be absurdly powerful? Such huge treasure wouldn't easily be found even in the cultivation realm. The objects that could form small worlds all surpassed spirit artifacts in level. Since when did Earth have such a thing? 1 leaf, 1 world, 3,000 leaves. Usually, everyone who cultivated the Tao knew that there were 3,000 great Taos which corresponded to the 3,000 great worlds. If it was 1 leaf, 1 world, 3,000 leaves, then if he had 3 pages, that could be 3 worlds, each having 3,000 Taos. Together that would be 9,000 Taos. God, Yimo was getting more and more confused. He rubbed his head. He felt that there was so much meaning to these words that he couldn't digest it all now. No matter what secret it involved, these golden leaves were definitely significant. He might be missing only one, and it was probably taken by the woman who slaughtered Lianhang Jing sect. Thinking about 3 worlds being contained within that paper, Yimo's heart was burning with intensity. He had to get that 3rd page no matter what. A woman, and she was half-step great heaven? Yimo rubbed his head. Since when was there such a strong female cultivator? He thought of Luo Yin's martial aunt, could it be her? The more Yimo thought about it, the more he thought it had to be her. If it was, then everything would be explained. However now, she might have been able to find the gold page in the Tao De Sutra, but she wouldn't find it in the ones Luo Xian gave her. What would she think then? She would suspect Luo Xian and go interrogate her. Yimo immediately began to worry for Luo Xian. Yi Qianbei? Lu Na's boyfriend saw Yimo's face change constantly and called out. Yimo came back to his senses and realized those 2 were still there. He smiled awkwardly. Sorry, I was thinking about something just now. Thank you for this research, it is very useful to me. What are you planning on doing now? Yimo wanted to invite Lu Na to Luoyu City after finding out that she had been involved in the research for the new element. Yi Qianbei, after I graduated from the University of California, I joined Northern Sand and met Lu Na afterwards. We were planning on going to Luoyu City after running away to join Qianbei but were chased here instead. We also had one more martial brother who escaped, but he died by the Northern Sand people's hands. The man's tone was still careful and sad as well. Yimo wouldn't have expected that they had wanted to join Luoyu all along. But it seemed obvious if you were being hunted by northern sand, there was no better place to go than Luo Yu. You're welcomed greatly. What is your name? Also, don't call me Qianbei anymore, we're about the same age, right? Your martial arts are also quite good for a technical guy, by the way. Yi Mo wouldn't reject such talent coming to Luo Yu. My name is Liang Jun, and my martial arts were passed down by my ancestors. After my father left, I was all by myself, so I sold everything I had and went to the US. Other than that, if I hadn't met Lu Na, I would probably still be in northern sand, Liang Jun replied. Yi Mo nodded, okay, go to Flowing Snake for now, that is Luo Yu's land too. After you go there, find CEO Yu. She will get people to send you to Luo Yu. I will call her later. After Liang Jun and Lu Na left, Yi Mo immediately called Yu Miaodan so she would send the two to Luo Yu as soon as they arrived. As for the data, it was better to keep it on himself. After the two left, Yi Mo sunk into worry. He was worried for Luo Xian, of course. With that old woman's means, she wouldn't give Luo Xian an easy time. But he couldn't leave Luo Yu now, either, as Luo Yu was still under construction. What if something happened during his leave? Chapter 543, Blue Diamond Ring. Chapter 543, Blue Diamond Ring. Although he was worried, there was nothing Yi Mo could do. He couldn't just put Luo Yu aside and go to the small world. Who knows what could happen while he was gone. Leaving before Luo Yu could protect itself would put in danger those who followed him in the case something happened. The gold leaf was also very important to him. If his guess was right, finding the 3 gold pages might lead to a miracle. Furthermore, Yi Mo was sure that the old woman wouldn't kill Luo Xian before making sure she had the right information. If she did find out the truth, he had no need to go find her, she would just go to Luo Yi and look for him. It all depended on whether she would find out the secret of the blank page. Yi Mo was sure that she wouldn't be willing to burn it like he did. Casting these thoughts aside, Yi Mo had just arrived to the cave at Nanlu Peak. It smelled bad and there was a huge stone blocking the door. There were 2 rooms inside, one seemed to be meant for cultivation and sleep and the other was probably used for cooking. It seemed like the grey-clothed man had really lived like a primitive, hiding in a cave and cultivating by himself. He had been quite perseverant. Yi Mo didn't go to the kitchen, the smell of meat in there was unbearable. Yi Mo's spirit sense scanned and soon found a lot of herbs, but they were all dried. Some of them were valuable, yet still useless for concocting pills. Yi Mo went into the man's cultivation room and just saw a simple bed lying in there. Yi Mo picked up the book beside the bed. It was written in ancient characters and it showed the use and effects of different herbs. Yi Mo finally understood why the man knew herbs that well. The book was useless to Yi Mo, so he threw it away casually. Yi Mo soon realized that there was nothing he wanted in there. He shook his head in disappointment. He really wondered how anyone could call these things a treasure. Just when Yi Mo was about to leave, his spirit sense found a wooden box covered in dust under the bed. Yi Mo opened it and saw something familiar, a yin-yang fish and an 8 trigrams shard. While holding these objects, he thought of the jade box he got from Guo Timing, in which there was a purple coral inside and a map. He had used that map to find the upside-down gourd island, and in there he had found a shard too. He put the 2 pieces together, but it still wasn't complete. A few other shards were missing. Yi Mo couldn't find out what that thing was anyway, so he threw out the wooden box and placed the 2 shards into the same jade box. He left the place and continued searching in Shunnong Jiao. That night, he managed to find a few lan su. After that, he returned to Luo Yu immediately. After giving the Chong data to Yi Xing, he started making pills. Because his yellow essence was limited, he only made 1 cauldron of essence Kai pill. The pill was no use for foundation establishment levels in Kai recovery, but for Kai gathering middle stage and primary stage it was quite good. In a way, he had saved plenty of lives thanks to these 2 pills. Thinking about the things he did, Yi Mo walked out of the cultivation room full of satisfaction. Suddenly, he felt Kai pulses from next door. Yi Mo scanned his spirit sense in and found that Ning Qingxue had just reached stage 3. While feeling happy for her, Yi Mo sighed. He couldn't help thinking that his talent really wasn't such big of a deal. Ning Qingxue definitely didn't cultivate as hard as he did, nor did she have the resources he did, but she still had reached stage 3. It was time to make a flying sword for her, but he was short on materials. He wanted to go congratulate her, but he changed his mind after realizing that she was still reinforcing her state. Hence, he decided to immediately return to the cultivation room. He wanted to help Ning Qingxue and Tang Beiwei by making 2 storage rings for them. Luckily, he had only used a third of the space abyssal rock last time and had gotten more at the auction. However, he didn't have enough supplementary materials, so he could only make 1. Because he still needed to go to the US, he chose to make a larger storage ring and give his to Ning Qingxue. Yi Mo made up his mind and started working. He was at stage 5 by then, so he could set more stable space formation. With more stable space formation, he could make storage rings with greater capacity. 3 days later, Yi Mo breathed at ease. He had used 3 essence Kai pills and 3 times the space abyssal rock to make this new ring. The new storage ring had around 15 meters of circumference. Yi Mo knew it was still too small, but his power was too low. If he was at foundation establishment level, he would be able to make a storage ring with 120 meters of circumference. Yi Mo also improved his old ring. He made it a little bigger and added a blue diamond to it. He didn't care about the aesthetics, but Ning Qingxue was a girl and the ring couldn't look too ugly. After finishing it, Yi Mo got up. Just when he was about to go out, Ning Qingxue pushed the doors open and came in. "I've been waiting for you outside for 3 days, but you were cultivating, so I didn't dare to come in. I reached stage 3, she had bruised inside to tell Yi Mo that she had broken through because she knew that Yi Mo would be very happy to hear that. Yi Mo looked at Ning Qingxue's face, it was getting prettier and more exquisite. She looked a little skinny, he knew she had been recently very busy because of Luo Yu and his heart ached for her. "Qingxue, you've been very busy. Why don't you hire some people to help you with your work?" Yi Mo didn't want Ning Qingxue to work that hard. Ning Qingxue shook her head. "No, I like my days busy and full of stuff to do. Moreover, I'm not the only one who's busy. Luo Fei and Yi Ling are both helping me. Mu Mei also came. Did Zifeng come too?" Yi Mo was only worried about those few people. If they were all in Luo Yu, he could be at ease. Ning Qingxue nodded. "She came 3 days ago. Yi Ling came by a few times but she didn't want to disturb you since you were cultivating. Yi Ling doesn't seem to be able to cultivate. Although I tried to teach her, she can't gather Kai." Yi Mo sighed. The thing he was worried about happened indeed. Not everyone has a spirit root. If Yi Ling couldn't cultivate, it meant she didn't have a spiritual root. There was nothing he could about that. In the cultivation realm, people without a spirit root could use unique spirit treasures to develop it, but on Earth that was impossible. Ning Qingxue tried to comfort him. "Once Luo Yu City is built, this will be a very safe place. Even if she can't cultivate, she'll be fine." Yi Mo didn't bother explaining. Ning Qingxue didn't know about the purpose of cultivation, she thought it was just to stay healthy. He took out a ring and gave it to Ning Qingxue. "Qingxue, this is for you. Do you like it? Such a pretty ring." Ning Qingxue grabbed it immediately, her eyes were already filled with sparkles. No woman could resist such a beautiful diamond ring, much less when it was given to her by the man she loved. After Yi Mo helped her put it on, she could no longer resist the love in her heart and embraced Yi Mo tightly. It was the first time Yi Mo gave her a ring, and it was such a pretty blue diamond ring. Was he proposing to her? Chapter 544, How to Earn Money. Chapter 544, How to Earn Money. Yi Mo held Ning Qingxue, sensing the faint aroma on her body as the fire in his heart burned. He kissed Ning Qingxue's lips and even forgot to tell her that it was a storage ring. As Ning Qingxue wore the ring she thought to be an engagement ring, she was already beginning to lose herself. She was getting more and more lost in Yi Mo's arms. How could she resist it when Yi Mo kissed her? She forgot that the door wasn't closed and deeply kissed him back. She felt as if her body were soft like jelly. One of Yi Mo's hands reached inside her clothes and grabbed the proud bulge at her chest. Suddenly, a desperate trod of footsteps woke the two up. Yi Ling saw that the room was unlocked and knew that her brother must have stopped cultivating. She charged in without hesitation. But what she saw was her brother embracing Qingxue, and when she saw where Yimo's hand was, she blushed and said, "Brother, you're really bad, aren't you? You didn't even close the door." Ning Qingxue also recovered from the fire in her heart and remembered where they were. She quickly left Yimo's arms and sorted out her clothes, but she was too embarrassed to talk to Yi Ling. Yimo smiled awkwardly. "Yi Ling, you're back. How is Beijing?" Yi Ling immediately forgot about what had just happened and started rambling on about Beijing. Yimo found out from her that although Yi Zifeng had settled in the Yi family, he was still too inexperienced. Within the convoluted power factions of Beijing, the Yi family was off far worse than before. Many people didn't dare do anything over the top for Yimo's sake, but if it wasn't for Yimo's reputation, perhaps the Yi family under Yi Zifeng's lead would have been left out of the center of power. Second brother said that the Yi family is far from what it was before. He plans on coming to Luoyu, but Grandpa said he can't come yet. Grandpa said that the Americans are interested in Luoyu and told you to be careful, brother. And even if Luoyu stabilized, it would be best not to move away the factories in Flowing Snake, Yi Ling said. Yimo nodded. What they said about Old Ginger being the spiciest was true indeed. Yi Beirong always looked very far ahead. Many people knew what the Americans had planned for Luoyu. It wasn't hard to tell, since even though they wanted the place, they still hadn't made a move. Yimo frowned. Since other people could see the problem, if he dragged on for too long, the Americans would also understand that he knew what they wanted. If that happened, would they try to completely destroy Luoyu? Yimo looked at Ning Qingxue and Yi Ling and smiled. What did he have to be scared about? He would deal with the situation accordingly, why be afraid up front? Thinking about the current situation, Yimo gathered everyone again to discuss their countermeasures. Because they were short on time, Yimo couldn't drag things on. He needed to think of a plan quick. After everyone heard Yimo's words, they knew that they couldn't rush things too much, though. Luoyu had only just been built. Even a normal country wouldn't be able to become a militarily strong power in such short time. Marshal brother, I looked at the data you brought back. I'm confident that I can invent the new type of intercontinental nuclear bomb within a year. But we have too little technical people staff. If we had some more, I'm sure we'd be able to research different projects faster. Yixing stood up and said. Then, let's start hiring people from all over the world. If we offer more money, I'm sure people will be willing to come work, Yi Ling said without thinking. Xu Yuhua shook her head. Although we earn a lot of money, facing the increasingly huge military expenses and construction, we're actually only barely making it. We already hired large amounts of people when we first came here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to build our defensive system that rapidly. If we hire more people, I'm afraid we will go bankrupt. Xu Yuhua didn't say that if Yimo hadn't made $10 billion recently, Luoyu would have perhaps gone bankrupt already. Yimo sunk into silence. His immortal hospital made a lot for every patient it had, but there were too little patients. And on Earth, he couldn't even sell his face-preserving pill properly. Hearing Xu Yuhua's words, Yixing also nodded. Yes, Sister Yuhua is right. And if we get some money, I suggest investing in our naval power, including motherships. We also need to build ship factories and large docks. Luoyu faces the sea on 3 sides. We absolutely must have naval power. It all came down to money, huh? Yimo sighed. How could he earn large amounts of wealth in a short time? If only we had something like that largest diamond mine in Russia. There's about 1 trillion carats worth of diamonds there. If you changed that into USD, it would be enough to fill this entire island, Yi Ling said. Ning Qingxue subconsciously looked at her ring and wondered when Yimo would marry her. How much money would that be? Yimo asked subconsciously. If they were all decent quality, then about 10,000 trillion USD, but that's impossible. If diamond was that easily excavated, then it would have all been dug out already, Xu Yuhua said. Yimo thought, it might be hard for others, but it's not hard for me. Now that he was stage 5, he could move through Earth. He could even use his spirit sense in the Earth to look for diamonds. As for the toughness of diamonds, that would spell no problems for his flying sword. Yimo believed that everything would be like dust beneath the sharpness of his flying sword. Besides, he knew the hardness of diamond already. He had just made one for Ning Qingxue. There was no problem at all. The only challenge was that because he had only just reached stage 5, it would be hard to use his spirit sense to search for diamonds while he moved through the earth. After all, earth that could form diamond would be rather hard. He couldn't just rely on his own kai. No one spoke, seeing that Yimo was considering something in silence. After quite a while, Yimo slammed the table and said, "Sister Yuhua, immediately spread the message across the world that we're recruiting technical staff. As long as they come, their salary will be multiple times their original salary. Especially military technological staff. Yi Xing, as soon as they come, immediately get them to join your research on the military products we need. Also, buy large amounts of weapons, be it cannons, bullets, planes, or construction lines. As for money, I will handle it." Yimo figured that since he couldn't just rely on his own kai, he would just make charms. He would make large amounts of earth travel runes and traverse the earth without a problem. Yimo didn't expect himself to find 200 million kilograms of diamonds randomly, but it would be a huge harvest already if he found just 1 ton. With all those mechanical beds and production lines, Yixing's inventions would come out much faster. Although most countries kept their most talented scientists under control, some didn't. If he couldn't get enough scientists, he would just abduct them like the Black Sun Empire did. At the moment, the US hadn't found the Black Sun's base yet, but when they did, wouldn't all those abducted scientists come under their control? That would be dangerous. He couldn't let that happen. He had to go to the Bai Lin Sea immediately. He had to find the Black Sun Empire before the US, so Yimo quickly left Luo Yu. He even put the Earth mobility charms and diamonds aside. Chapter 545, High-Tech Fishing Boat. Chapter 545, High-Tech Fishing Boat. An hour later, Yimo got to the island he had gone to find Ning Qingxue in the past. Last time he had been there was a wooden house in the middle, but now that wooden house was gone and so were the 4 dead bodies. It seemed that people had been here. He had marked the Black Sun logo last time, but that mark had to be within range to be detected. Yimo walked around and didn't find anything. Yimo gave up on the island and kept searching. Although his spirit sense had a radius of 800 m, it was still hard to find a hidden place in the vast ocean. Yimo didn't want to give up, though. The Black Sun Empire had been established many years ago, and who knows how many scientists the Japanese pirates had taken. Moreover, who knows how many scientific discoveries had they found. To Yimo, this was more valuable than diamonds. If he got hold of those research findings, it would take 10 years less from Luo Yu's development process. For Luo Yu City's sake, Yimo searched the seas day and night, but he didn't find anything for 3 consecutive days. On the 4th day, when Yimo was about to approach a small group of islands, he felt he was being locked by something. Yimo knew it wasn't good, so he switched places and turned invisible. Soon, Yimo saw a small patrol ship on the sea. Looking at the flag, he knew they were Americans. Yimo didn't do anything to it and looked around first. It was quite odd to see a single patrol boat there, much less such a small one. When he got closer to them, around 100 kilometers away from the patrol boat, he saw a ship without any flags. There were a few Japanese men on it and he immediately could tell that they were the Black Sun Empire's men. Yimo rejoiced, and at the same time also realized why the US ship was following them. They hadn't found the Black Sun Empire's base either. No matter how long the US ship had been following it, Yimo decided to end the ship's chasing game and take for him the results. With this in mind, Yimo flew above the US ship and got ready to attack. At the same time, a few officers in the command center looked at the radar with confusion. They had clearly found an unidentified object a moment ago, but why had it suddenly disappeared? It appeared again. It's 1,000 meters above the ship, a small bearded man claimed. Lock on immediate dash. Before the captain could finish, the small beard screamed again. Everyone looked at the direction he was pointing at. A white flash crossed the radar screen. What kind of attack was that? Return fire, the captain ordered. He had reacted much faster than the Indonesian Navy. Yimo stopped being invisible. The flying sword in his hand turned into a white ray and sliced the ship below. After reaching stage 5, his flying sword could turn into a 10-meter long and 3-meter wide sword ray. Rumble Yemo's flying sword had cut the ship right in the middle from top to bottom. What's going on? Everyone felt the ship shake. It seemed to be slanted. Water is coming inside, a marine yelled. Their ship hadn't even had time to attack and it was sinking already. This was too absurd. Yemo took back his flying sword and stared at the ship sinking slowly. He shook his head. He was still too weak. If he had been stronger, he could have sliced the ship in half. That would have been more shocking. However, it was impossible to remedy the cut and the ship was falling apart. Life rafts had gotten released already. Yemo was angry. He had attacked already, but he couldn't these people escape. Before they got onto the life rafts, he changed directions and sliced the boat again. This way, the ship sunk fast and it soon disappeared into the endless sea. After making sure that no one could survive, Yemo chased after the small boat. The Japanese boat had sped up a lot. Because they had known they were being followed, they moved slowly in order to think of a countermeasure. But the ship that was following them suddenly disappeared for some reason, so they sped up quickly. More US ships soon appeared where their patrol boat had sunk, but nothing was left there. After following the Japanese boat for 5 days, it stopped on an island. It was a coral island, smaller than the one before. Yemo really didn't know what the Japanese were doing at the island, neither did he know why so many of their bases were located on these islands. The island also had a small wooden house, but this time there were 2 of them. 8 Japanese Marines got off the boat carrying large wooden cases. After the men got off, one of them stayed outside and the remaining 7 went inside. They all had a black sun necklace on them. Yemo scanned his spirit sense in the wooden box and suddenly realized that they were all full of gold. Looking at the size of the box, each weighted about 150 kilograms, which meant that there were more than 500 kilograms of gold there. That would be about $20 million US. Although it wasn't a small amount, it wasn't much for Yemo. Yemo scanned the island carefully with his spirit sense. From his previous experiences, he knew that there were large amounts of alarms and a few radar systems. After the Japanese men went into the wooden house, they started talking, but Yemo couldn't understand anything, so he could only stay invisible and mark the island with multiple spirit sense marks. After this, Yemo left the island. He knew that they had poison for committing suicide. And even if he could subjugate them before they did it, he didn't understand Japanese, so he couldn't interrogate them. He might as well wait on the side. He didn't believe they wouldn't go back. After leaving, Yemo went to another coral island 10 kilometers away. He believed that as long as he wasn't in the air, the radar wouldn't notice a person in the ocean. That 10 kilometers distance was just the distance he needed to still sense the spirit sense marks. For a moment, it seemed like the Black Sun men had decided to stay there long term. They hadn't left in many days nor given any signs of going somewhere. Just when he was getting impatient, Yemo's spirit sense mark moved. He flew above the island and found a fishing boat parked next to it. He didn't even know where it came from. It had made no sound at all. Yemo carefully landed behind a rock and scanned his spirit sense. He was dazed with what he found. A few days ago there had been only 4 boxes of gold, but now, there were 40. How did so many suddenly appear? Yemo scanned his spirit sense out and immediately found that there was an underground bunker behind the wooden house. The Japanese men had gotten the gold from somewhere and stored it underground. He hadn't even noticed it last time. It seemed that they were preparing to leave after loading the boat with the gold. As Yemo expected, the 40 boxes were soon carried onto the fishing boat. Then, the fishing boat's engine started and left the island. What shocked Yemo was that the fishing boat was much faster than their previous ship. It almost made no sound at all. What kind of engine was that? It was clearly a high-tech boat. Chapter 546, Laser Tunnel, Gold Safe. Chapter 546, Laser Tunnel, Gold Safe. Yemo really wanted to kill the 8 guys that were staying on the island but eventually didn't do anything. He didn't want to alarm the enemy, so he chose to follow this ship instead. By the time it was dark, Yimo understood that this ship was almost faster than normal cars, even though it looked heavy and wasn't something that could be compared with jet skis. Yimo landed on one corner of the fishing boat and found that it was armed with cannons and missiles. What shocked Yimo the most was how little sound the engine made. One could only hear the waves and barely the engine. Yimo was interested in this. This definitely had to be the latest product of the Black Sun Empire. This wasn't even a battleship, so perhaps their actual warships were much stronger than the US's already. If he could move all of that to Luoyu. Yimo was deep in thought as this boat kept going for the entire night. The next day, it entered a narrow port. Yimo scanned the surroundings with his spirit sense. This was an island, a private island. There were guards around the island. Yimo couldn't sense how big the island was with his spirit sense, but he saw it very clearly. It had large groups of buildings, green mountains, and lakes, and there were all sorts of entertainment facilities on the beach. This was clearly a luxury private holiday resort. Yimo refocused his gaze as the ship went into the island, stopping at a simplistic port. There were 4 Japanese men guarding at the pier. 2 of them out in the open, and 2 hidden out of sight. Of course, to Yimo's spirit sense, there was no difference. Then there was also a cargo truck waiting by the port. Seeing the fishing boat arrive, 2 Japanese got off the cargo truck. They quickly brought the gold onto the cargo truck, and it started driving immediately. During the whole process, Yimo didn't hear a single word. Clearly, this wasn't their first time doing this. After the cargo ship left, Yimo immediately killed the 4 people remaining on it, as well as the 4 guards. Then, he followed the truck further into the island. Soon, the truck entered a valley. In it, Yimo practically found another world. There were large amounts of expensive mansions and a coombe of large laboratories, blocked by all the trees. Yimo checked the place with his spirit sense. The security around the valley was very tight. This was one of the Black Sun Empire's bases indeed. He wondered if all their scientists were here. The truck stopped outside what seemed to be a vault, and so did Yimo. There were cameras and automatic trigger response weapons everywhere. In order to prevent himself from being spotted, Yimo put an essence Kai pill inside his mouth to maintain the Kai level needed for his invisibility mode. There were 4 armed guards inside the vault. After checking the truck driver's documents and the contents of the car, the 4 guards retreated. Yimo's spirit sense found that behind the door of the vault was a long tunnel. There were constantly lasers crossing around the whole area. So thorough. Yimo was astonished. With such serious security, Yimo was sure that even he wouldn't be able to break in through there. Who knew if he could stop these lasers? With his current power, it would be very hard. But of course, even if the vault was heavily guarded, it wouldn't stop Yimo from going in if he really wanted to. After all, he didn't have to go through the tunnel. Other places may have many meters of steel protection, but that was no problem for Yimo. After the guards retreated and the door to the vault was opened, Yimo saw the lasers disappear. The truck drove into the vault. Upon gazing at the vault filled with wooden crates, Yimo was dazed. How many wooden crates were here? There had to be at least 3,000 to 4,000. That meant that there was around 500 to 600 tons of gold. He didn't expect the Black Sun Empire to be this rich. Why would they keep this much gold? Why would they not turn it into money? Why store it and guard it so heavily instead? Although gold was worth money, the gold here would only amount to a couple tens of billions of USD. That might be quite a lot, but for modern scientific research, it wasn't that huge. After the truck was unloaded, Yimo didn't follow it out but stayed in this vault instead. The vault walls were made of steel boards and were indeed rather thick. Yimo's spirit sense couldn't penetrate it. Yimo found one steel board and started digging into it with his flying sword. After digging for about 30 centimeters, there some sparks appeared, but that was nothing to the flying sword. Soon, it dug through the sparky layer and after digging for another meter, a hole appeared. Yimo immediately knew that the sparks must have been caused by an electrified layer in the wall. If someone tried to pierce the steel layer with tools and touch the electricity, they would die for sure. But Yimo's flying sword could be called a super resistor. If his flying sword were conductive, then when he fought with lightning cultivators, He'd be in for some suffering. Yimo kept digging the hole until he had dug through. He thought that when he reached the electrified layer, he would trigger the alarm, but even after waiting for a while, nothing happened. Soon, Yimo understood that his flying sword was not only non-conductive, it was also so sharp that there were no metal shillings touching the electrified layer. There was no loss of electric current, and thus the alarm wasn't triggered. After leaving the vault, Yimo found himself standing in a small room with a man staring at him in daze. He was shocked seeing where Yimo came out from. He didn't know what was inside the metal wall, but he knew that he couldn't touch it. Yet now, a person came out of it. The man reacted rapidly, though, but just as he wanted to press the alarm, Yimo burned him to a crisp with a fireball. After killing this man, Yimo looked around the room carefully. It was full of surveillance equipment. Yimo suddenly saw a faint shadow on the main monitor. This shadow was so faint that if one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't even be able to see it, but Yimo was shocked. He knew that this was his shadow. He didn't think that the camera would still be able to capture him even when he was invisible. Was he too weak, or was this surveillance camera just too high-tech? Yimo cut some wires and planned on taking away the hard drive, but he found that there was no hard drive, only monitors. Yimo thought for a moment and decided to simply start slaughtering away. He had to take away that gold, but he had no means to like that. His storage ring was too small. After leaving this room, Yimo started looking for the control center. But Yimo didn't understand Japanese, so he searched for a long time and killed tens of men but didn't find one who knew Chinese. Yimo was getting impetuous. If he couldn't find anyone who did, then he might as well kill everyone. Yimo also didn't feel like there was an airport there, so he didn't think the scientists would be there. If they weren't, then at the worst he had at least earned some money. Right when Yimo was doubting what to do, a bulky man accompanied by 2 guards walked over. Yimo killed the 2 guards without thought and grabbed the bulky man, asking his usual question, "Do you know Chinese?" Chapter 547, Annihilation of an Island. Chapter 547, Annihilation of an Island. The first thing the bulky man did when he realized the situation was to bite hard on his teeth, but Yimo was experienced and stopped him. Yimo sighed. These Japanese were really cruel to themselves. Yimo pressed on the Japanese guy's forehead and asked, "Do you know Chinese?" "I do." Yimo rejoiced at that answer and asked a series of questions. "Reply to everything in Chinese. What is it you do here? What authority do you have?" "I'm the guard captain here, responsible for security." "How many people are active here? How well defended is this place? What valuable things are here? Are there any captured scientists?" The man answered all the questions very precisely. After an entire hour, Yimo got what he wanted and casually got rid of the man. Yimo found out that this island was called Black Star Island, and it was one of the main scientific research islands of the Black Sun Empire. Although it wasn't very large, there were 739 people guarding it. There were also all sorts of anti-missile systems and radars. A total of 242 scientists was held captive here, 89 of whom were world-renowned scientists. Those high-level mansions were the scientists' research facilities. There was no airport, so all of their seized planes were kept on another island 1,000 nautical miles from away. There were 537 tons of gold stored there, beyond half of the Empire's gold storage. After knowing that, the first place Yimo went to was the control center. He cut off all the communication devices, but Yimo knew that even if he destroyed the whole room, some wireless signals would still be able to go out. But he only needed some time. Then, he started killing. Yimo didn't hold back and killed everyone he saw. In the end, Yimo was sure he had killed everyone as no one could escape from his spirit sense. Then, Yimo went to the research facilities. They were also heavily guarded, but the environment was really something. It was truly like a holiday resort except for the place being rather small. There were a lot of offices and laboratories, and everyone was focused on doing their own thing. The place was made up of 10 faculties, and each one worked individually but all in the same area. After coming here, Yimo felt like he had come to university again. When Yimo rushed into the largest faculty, A few foreigners looked at him in shock immediately. According to them, although they were free inside the faculties, no one would usually be allowed to come in. Although they could go out a bit, they had limited time and space when doing so. At most they would be able to have a glance at the beach. Seeing them look at him, Emo frowned. He didn't know English. He could understand some simple conversations, but he couldn't speak. Does anyone here know Chinese? Emo looked around. Then, one man stood out hesitantly. I'm Chinese, who are you? Emo rejoiced, but before he could talk, his spirit sense caught onto a guy with an alarm. Emo threw a wind blade over before he could press it, and the man was cut in half immediately. The bloody scene scared the researchers. Emo looked around carefully and realized that that person must have been undercover. Other than him, everyone else was normal. The person I just killed was a Japanese member hiding amongst you to keep watch on you. Now, anyone who wishes to leave with me, please come forward. If you don't want to leave, you can stay here. Emo didn't really mean that. He knew that no matter how good this place was, no one would want to be kept in custody. You're here to save us, an old white man said in disjointed Chinese. Emo nodded. You could say that, but I do have my conditions. I can get you out of these people's custody, and you will be free men, but you will have to work at my place for 5 years before being allowed to leave. During your working period, however, you're free to roam anywhere on my land. You're from another organization? That white man immediately didn't seem too willing. From one place to another, they would still be kept in custody. There was no difference. Emo smiled. No, we are openly building a city. My company is called Luoyu Pharmaceuticals. It's not a place like this that lurks in the shadows. Luoyu Pharmaceuticals, that Chinese man repeated in shock and immediately said, I'm willing to go. I've heard of your corporation. It said that a few months ago you took over CNA and changed its name to Luoyu and then declared independence. It seems they weren't restricted from TV access. In that case, it would save him a lot of explaining. The foreigner also knew about Luoyu and explained it to the other scientists there. After hearing that it was a proper city, they all expressed their willingness to leave. They could only get true freedom after 5 years, but the city was thousands of times larger than this place. That was enough to make them want to leave that cage. Emo was very happy that they all wanted to leave. If there had been someone who didn't want to go, Emo would kill them before he left. He couldn't leave any evidence behind. Then, Emo told them to gather all their research findings and computers for him. The Chinese man was an American Chinese materials researcher called Huang Xiao. He helped Emo quite a bit. Emo used the same method to convince all the other faculties and killed 12 more undercover enemies in the meantime. Under Emo's command and with Huang Xiao and that old white man's help, they spent an entire day loading all the things onto the ship. Although the fishing ship was large, it wasn't Lehigh, it was a cargo ship, so it could only carry 2,000 to 3,000 tons. The gold took up a few hundred tons alone, so many things couldn't be taken, but Emo could only leave them behind. As the ship left the port, 2 helicopters finally came over. They landed on the island. They only came because the surveillance data seemed abnormal and because they received no replies to their queries, but they had come too late. After Huang Yusi and the old white man called Pete's introduction, Emo knew that most of the scientists here were military-related. Even Emo couldn't help but sigh at the Black Sun Empire's capability to acquire so many talented people over the years. One could see their ambitions from that. After some more years of hard work, perhaps they really would be able to build a militarily powerful country. Emo really didn't know where their money to support such high-cost scientific research could have come from. That northern sand seemed to be the same, just what was it they all wanted to achieve? Was there some correlation between the Black Sun Empire and northern sand? Just as Emo was thinking about this, there was some loud rumbling, and 4 battle jets appeared above the fishing boat. The researchers on the boat immediately had their faces turn pale. Although they had been held captive on the island, at least they had kept their lives, but if these battle jets rained bullets on them, they wouldn't even be able to live, let alone be freed from captivity. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.